Hey everybody, how you doing, Jeremy?
Doing well, Darryl. Welcome to episode 23. I'm Jeremy. With me, as always, is your favorite co-host, Darryl. We're
Hi.
doing it again, buddy. Another episode.
Another episode. Just rolling along, keeping things moving.
Yeah, and we're doing it live again. Thanks to everybody who joined us last week live. And as we found out, it's not as easy as it's cracked up to be there. We always talked about Brody and Yuli and tour life and all the things they run into. We're saying, nah, everything we do is fine. And then last week we learned that it doesn't always work out that way.
No, it doesn't always go according to plan, but I think we managed it okay. Nobody complained.
No, that's right.
Excuse me.
And speaking of listeners, who do we got joining us right now?
Yeah, we have a lot of people in the chat tonight. We have Sonia, we have Kevin, Rhonda's in the chat.
You're not holding up your mirror though when you're saying that.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking. What is it called again?
It's
the romper room.
Yeah,
in the romper room.
English thing. I forgot.
No, it's not an English thing. It's a Canadian thing. But I'll play along.
Okay.
What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to move it in and out?
I see Mark, and I see. You got to look right
Sonia
at them.
and Kevin, and I see Rhonda, and I see Mark and Brock, all in the chat right now.
All of these people.
Brock just got back from Women's League, so very fitting that he just got back from the opening night of Women's League.
Oh, nice. Well, and I think the funny thing too, just to tell you, Darryl, was with that romper room one, because you were always waiting if you had a name like Jeremy, if she would ever say it, because it always was like, I think about the 70s and 80s, right? And it was like, I guess 80s. I see Jennifer and Susan and Michael and Tom, like all of these names that were so common, right? So probably most of the people had that name.
Yeah, exactly. But when, like you said before, I think when she says your name, it's like, she's talking to me.
Exactly. Because I think she was doing like the dead stare straight into the camera, right? So,
right.
Yeah. But cool. So tonight is kind of an exciting change. We're always talking about trying to continuously improve and do different things on our episodes.
Yeah.
And tonight we're doing a new thing where we're going to have 2 guests on one episode.
We are. It's a new thing for us. It should go okay. We've done some tests. We it's not 2 at the same time, so it's 2 separate guests. But great topics that we want to talk about with they all kind of tie in together. So why not get 2 people on at the same time to talk about something that's very important.
Yeah. So first we've got Andréa Michaud coming on, and she's going to talk to us about the Canadians women's event. Yeah. And that's actually we'll get into it as we talk to Andrea, but it's a number of different events, not just one.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're going to talk to Kristin Swirles, and she's the TD of She's Up First. She wears so many hats. We've talked to her already as an FPO, but tonight is as a tournament director.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it'll be a second time guest for Kristin. So yeah, it's nice that we get guests back on again. We've interviewed them previously for whatever reason we've interviewed them for, and then if there's something else that we need to interview them for, then get them back on. And 2 or 3, 4 times, it doesn't matter. As long as we got something interesting to talk about, we'll get them on again.
Yeah, something interesting to talk about, something that our listeners want to hear. And if we're having fun, I think those are kind of like our key tenets when we're trying to figure out an episode, hey?
But, sorry, I didn't hear what you said there.
That's okay. Yeah, that's the other thing, trying to learn how to juggle the chat and the episode at the same time, and all the other controls that you're doing behind the scenes there as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of first time listeners, viewers. Our first guest has done great work promoting the episode, and we thank her for that. So yeah, a lot of new people in the chat, a lot of new listeners, and hopefully a few new subscribers to the channel as well.
Yeah, that would be great as well. And definitely, we've got a lot of people from Ontario, so it's like 9:20 right now out in their time, so they're staying up late for us, and we appreciate that. And for all our Edmontonians, they're going to maybe have us on one screen and have the Oilers game on the other screen. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's, well, talking about the Oilers game, I was looking, I went to the liquor store the other day, and if Edmonton Disc Golf Association is now sponsored or partnered up with Seachange Brewing. And if you follow Seachange Brewing on Instagram, They've just to commemorate the Oilers playoffs, they released the Joey Moss Mandarin Ale. And
Nice.
I tried to find some Mandarin Ale Joey Moss cans so that I could have it on the podcast tonight. But unfortunately, no Joey Moss. But I am drinking some Gremlin. It's a new IPA from Seachange. So
and I got
Gremlin Seachange. Oh, look
blonde,
at that. We got the blonde ale. So we're repping, we definitely like to support local, and anybody that supports Edmonton disc golf.
It makes it so much easier when it's a beer company that's a
that's
brewery
true.
that's supporting.
Yeah,
right?
you didn't really have to twist my arm to get me to go and buy those anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, before we get to start talking to our first guest, I think we should do a number one tag update, because that's an important thing in my mind now that the leagues have started in the Edmonton area. Where is that number one tag? So I don't know if you want to start with this one or you want me to start with it.
Move my camera. Yeah. So we had mentioned before that, I think we mentioned it, that we had two previous guests that were going to challenge for the tag. I don't know if we ever did give an update on that. But yeah, it started off with two previous guests. We had Mark Dwyer, Edmonton Disc Golf Association board member, had the tag and was challenged by friend of the show, Mark Thompson. They went out to Wildman disc golf course there, kind of put it onto Mark's home territory, give him a bit of a home field advantage. They went out there. It was a really close round. Matt started off in the lead. Mark came back and ended up taking down the victory there. So he had the number one tag, but then was very soon after challenged by I keep calling him El Presidente, EDGA President Tim Plamondon, and they went out last Thursday. Was it last Thursday?
Yeah,
Thursday before.
Yeah.
It was, but it was it last?
Yep.
No, it was the week. Yeah, no, it was last Thursday. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up.
Trust your co-host, brother.
Yeah, no, I got faith in you. Yeah, and Tim played professional golf, good golf, and ended up taking the win over Mark. And also Jacob Tenhove was on the card as well. So some tags were switched around, but the number one tag ended up with Tim Plamondon.
Yeah. So then Tim, I kind of reached out to him a couple times here this week just to get an update for us for tonight. Yeah. Has the tag moved again? And so far it has not. He has defended it a couple times. So Mark had defended the tag against you, me, and Ash Perry, and kept the tag. And then Tim has defended it a few times. I asked him, what about today? Was there anything new even today? He said he went out for a solo round and he almost lost the tag. I don't know how that was. Maybe he actually fell off his bag. I'm not sure what happened, but in any event, he still has the number one tag. But I think you had learned something a little interesting about Tim and tags and tag numbers, eh?
Yeah. So I got out this week and played a round of golf with Mark. And Mark was just fresh off helping out, doing some maintenance at Hermitage with Graham, EDGA board member. Maintenance. What is his? And I forget his exact title. Do you know his exact title?
Course maintenance, maybe.
Course maintenance. That sounds good. So they went out for a round, and Mark ended up beating Graham. So they swapped tags. So Mark, I believe he had like 147. They ended up swapping tags. So now Mark has, I guess it's a coveted number, but he has tag 14. Somebody we know and who's been on this podcast likes the number 14 and really wants that number.
I don't know if that's like Jordan. As we were talking about Oilers, I know that Jordan Eberle wore 14. I'm pretty sure. Anybody out there can call me on that, but maybe that's it. So Tim is looking for 14, and I think he said he challenged 14. Mark for it. Did he?
That's what he said. But he already challenged Mark for number one tag and got that number one tag. Now Mark has number 14. He wants to challenge him for the number 14 tag. I think Tim should just be happy with whatever tag he gets and then wait for someone to challenge him now.
Yeah, the classic parent line. You get what you get and you don't get
upset.
Or I think I was saying to my boys, I would say, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit.
Yeah, that works as well.
As long as it rhymes, I think it's good. But we should go through. So let's do this. We're going to keep this little tag number one history going. So started out, as it always does, or it has the last couple of years, with the vice president of the Edmonton Disc Golf Association. So this year that was Brock Cicchetti. Then Matt Dwyer, growth on the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, another board member, wins it.
Yeah.
Then Mark Thompson, who is a member at large for the maintenance team for the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, gets the tag.
Yeah.
And then Tim Plamondon, president of, are you getting sick of hearing this yet?
Yeah, I can see a trend starting, Jeremy.
The Edmonton Disc Golf Association has the tag. So I want to know who's going to be next to get the number one tag.
Yeah.
But first off, the only thing I got to say with that, Darryl, is let's get the tag away from the EDGA board members. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they've held on to it for too long, and it just keeps going around in the old boys club. So somebody needs to take it off them. Yeah, but who could take it off them?
Well, I don't know. When we were talking, we kind of found something unique about all of those people who have had the tag.
It's Illuminati, Jeremy.
Yeah. Tell the listeners what that's all about. Or I'll tell them what it's all about.
We just told them that the only people that have held on to the number one tag all seem to be from EDGA.
But there was a second tie. Remember when we discovered that as well? All four of those people have been a guest.
That tie.
Yeah. They've all been
guests on our show
podcast.
Yeah. Brock, Matt, Mark, Tim, they've all been on the show.
So with that being said, there's still some people who have been on the show who are in the Rundle League who don't have the tag.
Yeah.
So who do we got?
So we've got anybody can win. It could be Tristan Piska. He's in the Rundle League. He's been a guest on the show previously. Terry Hong, Heiserbaum.
Yes.
She's a great player. She could obviously take Tim down for that. Zoë Lorenz Boser. You know, great FPO player. She can definitely, on her game, take Tim down when he's not playing. And then, of course, a guest that's coming up later on in the show, Kristin Swirles could also take him down for it. So, yeah. So I think basically what we're saying, Jeremy, is if you want a chance at the number one tag, hit us up and come on the show. Come on the podcast, and you might be in line to take the number one tag.
Be a member of the board or be on the show, whichever one you think might be easier for you.
There you go.
Well, you know, the other thing too is Zoe will have to be quick. Just a quick thing about that is we were chatting with her there. She had sent us a message. Yeah. First thing, for anybody who watched her episode, one of her goals was to throw over 400 feet, right? I believe she had mentioned to us.
Yeah.
And she just recently threw 407 feet recorded on UDisc. So
yeah. So congratulations to her. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we asked her about the tag or about she's up first. And she had said she's actually going on a trip right away to Thailand and Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I can't wait to hear more about that trip when she gets back.
Yeah. So she'll have to challenge before she goes, or she'll have to wait till she gets back and then find out who has that number one tag. But it's up for grabs as long as somebody from EDGA doesn't have it.
That's exactly it. Hey.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, I wanted to just change the topic a little bit here. I wanted to let you know of something. We're all about Canadian disc golf, as we say. Yes. We're always about supporting local and anything to do with disc golf in Canada. And I wanted to show you something that I have done or bought to support Canadian disc golf. Can you guess what it is?
Oh, I have a thought. I know there's a lot of ways to support Canadians right now.
Okay.
Could be.
If you had to guess, well,
I would guess maybe supporting the Team Canada going to Australia in some way.
Oh, you're so close. No, it's not that, I'm afraid.
Could it have anything to do with one of our players that's down on the DGPT?
It is. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you because we'll be here all night otherwise. I have my Chantel Budinsky F3.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Just got it in the mail today.
That looks
nice
so
hot air
good.
balloon stamp 2024 series disc for Chantel Budinsky. So yeah, like we say, we want to support Canadian. When we like to I find it kind of a bit of a crude saying, but we like to put our money where our mouths are. We don't just talk about supporting it and then just get other people to support it or anything like that. I think Brock can attest to that. But Dis Republic, I'll give them a shout out. Dis Republic, go on there if you want to order your Chantel Budinsky F3. It supports her. Use the code Miss Frisbees when you check out, and that will support her. So yeah,
I believe too is I actually just heard her speaking on one of another podcast, and it's an F3 is what that is in 750 plastic.
It is
and
an
she
F3.
Said she really likes that one because it's a bit it's more stable than some of the other plastics.
Okay, yeah, I haven't thrown it. I just got it today. It's one of those ones that I'm like, it's such a pretty pattern, and it's a nice disc, and it's got her name on it. Like, do I want to throw it?
And then
I should throw it, right? Because you're all about, you get custom discs and everything, and you throw them. So I guess it's got to be thrown, right?
Yeah.
Guess we put this in the chat. If you have a custom disc, if you have a nice disc, a nice Tour Series disc, do you throw it or do you stick it on the wall? Like, this is is it commemorative? I mean, it's Chantel's first signature Tour Series disc.
Yeah, that's true.
But
she's been put up to the top team with Prodigy as well, right? So
yeah, exactly.
But you know why I'm not the person to ask about that though, Darryl? Because that's amazing, and saving those types of things. I went to an Edmonton Elks football dinner years back.
Okay.
And I was at a table, and everybody was supposed to look underneath their chair and then see if they won. And I happened to win, so I won a football on the table that was signed by all of the Elks from that year.
Right.
And it's actually in my garage, and we play catch with it. So
and all the names are worn off, and now it just looks like a normal football.
Yeah, to me it's like, what was it made to be used for football, right? So
yeah, okay. Brock says throw it. I'm sure everybody else is going to say throw it as well. I can't remember the numbers on it. I believe it's something like 7.5 minus 2.1.
Yeah, I believe it's fairly stable is what it is for that disc. And then also too, apparently when they were doing those Tour Series discs, she picked the fairway because it was like the history of flight. So it could be things like an airplane. It could be different types of things. So she was able to put a hot air balloon on there. So
yeah.
She got to choose that image, and she was really happy about it.
Yeah, it feels really good in my hand. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to, Joe in the chat, depending if it's something that you throw, then bag it. But if it's something that's very special, then put it on the wall or in a cabinet, which is a fair comment.
Yeah.
I don't bag a lot of Prodigy. I don't know if I have a place in my bag for this one, and the only way that I'm going to find out if I like throwing it or not
is if you throw it.
Yeah. Brock had to come out with the ideal answer, or just buy two.
Yeah, there is that.
Put one on the shelf and put one out in your bag. So yeah, okay,
that makes sense. So if you really, really like this one, buy another one.
Yeah.
If you throw it and you want to put one on the shelf.
Yeah.
So shall we get to the first guest?
Let's get to it, Jeremy.
All right. Well, our first guest is Andréa Michaud. She hails from St. Catharines, Ontario. She is one of the founding members of the CWE, Canadian Women's Event. She's also an elected member of the PDGA Women's Council. And we can't wait to talk to her about this. So let's get right to it and welcome Andréa Michaud to the show. Hey, Andrea.
Hey.
Hey, how are you doing?
So excited. Longest day of my life.
I just get you to move just slightly to your left, Andrea.
Oh, this will be fun. Do I know my left from my right?
There you go. That's perfect.
We go. Now we can see it. We kind of had your half profile there, right? So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
I'm doing really well. It was just a long day of waiting, and it was raining here, so I couldn't even throw, which made it worse.
Yeah, you guys are getting actual spring weather then. You're getting some rain?
Yeah, we've had rain the last couple of days, so I was working on course layouts for my event that's coming up instead, sloshing around out there.
Nice. So the weather doesn't scare you away then. Will you play in the rain, or do you take a rain day off if it's raining?
No, I play in the rain, the snow, the wind, no excuses.
There you go. That's what we like to hear. We're not about improving our form and improving our game or anything like that. We just want to get out and play, right?
Yeah. Well, Andrea, I wanted to roll in at the beginning here and kind of mention, because I don't know if a lot of our Western listeners are familiar with St. Catharines, Ontario, but from what I understand, because I'm a Southwestern Ontario boy, I was born and raised in London, Ontario. So St. Catharines, it's kind of close to the honeymoon capital of the world, Niagara Falls. Are you not too far from there?
It is. I'm only about 7 minutes, just a
Oh,
highway exit away. So I had a great view for the eclipse. And
okay.
there's also 3 courses that are right by me, which is really great. And the US border is 9 minutes from my door. So there's a whole bevy of courses over there that I get to play to and enjoy.
Nice.
Awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Hey, Darryl?
Yeah. No, we're lucky enough to have a few courses right next to us as well. So yeah, it's good to have more than, some people just have 1 or 2 that they can pick from, and we feel sorry
I think
for
at my
them.
last count, I was at 15 with an hour drive.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
That's
that's from Christie Lake to South Buffalo, kind of in between. So lots of choice. I'm pretty spoiled.
And
we don't
pretty
really get
awesome
winter.
courses.
Definitely awesome courses. And this was the first winter I did not ribbon my discs.
Oh, great. And you were able to find everything? You didn't have to wait for some kind soul to return a disc?
We didn't really have winter this year.
Right.
It maybe snowed a handful of times, so pretty spoiled weather-wise too.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now, although you're on the other side of Canada, I think when we were chatting a little bit back and forth, you actually have a little story and connection to the Edmonton disc golf area, don't you? And I was hoping that you'd share that with us. You just gave us an inkling, so we thought you could tell us right away.
I'm really lucky that my fiance works for a company that produces Fisher valves. So they have I guess a factory or a company in Edmonton. And sometimes when his travel links up with my holidays from work, I can go with him. So he was headed out to Edmonton and I asked if I could tag along. It was probably about 3 months after I'd found disc golf. So I was very new, very bad. In every possible way. And he had, of course, a rental car for work, and he was working 12, 13-hour days. So he quickly realized that I was going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive him to work so that I could take the rental car. Because on the plane ride there, I found the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, and I could not believe for $20 a year I could get a shirt and be a member of this amazing place.
Right.
I have never been west of Windsor, so it was a whole adventure. And of course, like a total new person, I just opened up the Facebook page and said, "Hi, I'm new in Edmonton. I'm only here for a few weeks. I would like to play some disc golf." And instantly there was 12 replies.
Nice.
Of a whole bunch of
Awesome.
new friends. I was able to get to 3 courses that were there. The Hills was pretty much my favorite because it was easier and friendly. But by the time I left Rundle, I want to go back there so badly. There's another course in the north part of the city, and I don't even know what it was called. But I only played the first few holes because there was an angry bee's nest.
Oh.
Yeah, and we had to leave. So it was kind of the guy that I was out there with didn't want to tango with the bees, so we only played,
I'm
I think,
gonna
up to
guess
hole
that
4.
it was Hermitage.
Yeah, Hermitage probably before it got to the state that it's in today, it might have had some bees.
Yeah.
It was really strange that it was just after a few holes we kind of left, and we actually went back to Rundle. I met a Tim while I was there, and I don't know how to say his last name correctly. I think it's Sherman.
Yes.
But it has a couple of U's in it, and I didn't have a mini. I didn't know how to throw. I was just putting like the whole time. I knew nothing about driving, so I would actually jump putt down the fairway.
Okay.
Like I thought that's how you played. So he gave me some tips and helped me out, and I think I spent a couple of days at Rundle with him. And the conversations when I would go back and meet my fiance that night were hilarious because it would be, "Well, what did you do today?" "Well, I met this guy, Tim." "Oh, tell me about Tim." "I don't actually know a thing about Tim." Tim has a blue disc and a green disc, and he had the key to the baskets, and he lowered one for me because I was scared that it was up high. So like he was just the kindest person ever. And
That's
that
awesome.
was literally my first introduction to a Facebook sort of disc golf family. And every single day I went out with someone new. I met a fellow named Andy. I think Noel Kroll. He was trying to start a disc golf shop at some point, and I think he's come back to Ontario since. And just every day, because I had this rental car, there were a lot of people who lived in town that didn't have a vehicle. So it was kind of, where are we going and who am I picking up? So then I started picking up 3 or 4 people and going to the course. And it definitely was not the way that I thought the holiday was going to go. And my fiance had some huge concerns, but I assured him that they're disc golf people. They're fine. They were friendly, and I didn't know anything about the people that I was playing with, but they were all patient and encouraging. And that just, if you can fall in love with the sport in the most pure way, that was the way that it was. I did not want to leave Edmonton. I wanted to stay there. I was looking at house prices while I was there. They were a lot lower than in Ontario too, so it was a hard. The only thing that actually made me get on the plane to go home was that there was frost on my window on August 10th.
Gotcha.
And I don't know about frost in August, but that doesn't happen here. So I wasn't prepared.
Not the fact that your partner was getting back on the plane to go back, but it was just the frost that.
No, even on one of the days it rained, I actually set up like a little indoor kind of course using the furniture in the hotel.
Nice. That's commitment.
It was an instant addiction.
Well, you know what, Andrea, that leads me into saying, you know what, you're kind of giving us a little bit of an origin story, but we thought we should put together, as you've listened to our episodes, and we thank you very much, is I've got an origin story for you. So again, this one's kind of based on a movie, and we can have our people in the chat guess, but if they don't guess this one, I don't know what I'm going to do with these stories there, Darryl.
Yeah.
So are you ready, Andrea?
I'm ready.
All right. Maybe you were on a summer vacation with your family and you went to a lakeside resort. You'd always been a little quiet, maybe even the baby of the family, but you came into your own on that trip. You managed to carry a couple of watermelon craves to a disc golf dancing party. The rest of your trip was full of disc golfing and dancing. One might say that you had the time of your life. Well, I've been going on a bit, and we all know that no one puts Andrea in the corner. So that maybe isn't how you got into disc golf, but why don't you give us the quick version of how you did?
There was actually a colleague that I work with, because when I'm not disc golfing or running an event or serving on a committee, I'm a teacher. And one of the ladies that I work with, she played. And she's just one of those people that's really adventurous. Like, she'll try any sport, and she had sons, and her husband was pretty athletic. So somehow I agreed to tag along and caddy for her. And interestingly enough, the caddy experience, like, I didn't know what to do. It was in the thick of COVID. So my job was to spray bleach on the chains.
What?
That was my job. I just had her backpack on my back, and that was the way they were running tournaments at the time in Southern Ontario, was that I had a bleach and water mixture, and I had to spray the chains after each person putted out.
Wow.
And it was interesting because True North was filming part of this, and they did have a couple of me shots, like running in and squirting the chains and pretending like I was cleaning them, just to show that we were being COVID compliant. So that kind of started off, that's sort of how I started. And luckily, one of the ladies there, I don't even remember to this day who it was, but as we were leaving, someone had kind of said, well, you can play, like, if you want to try throwing a disc, why don't you give it a shot? And, as I should have been heading to the car, I did like a quick 180. Right. And I was like, I'll give it a try. And they had a soccer goalpost kind of set up. So I gave it like, a good 30-foot toss, and couldn't figure out why my disc didn't go as far as, at the time she was playing FA2. So I was watching some pretty talented women, couldn't figure out why mine was not going that far. Really, it was just an opportunity to wander around Christie Lake. I'd never been to the conservation area. Totally beautiful course.
Yes.
But that first toss, life-changing, because once I threw a disc and I didn't know why mine didn't go as far because I tried really hard, instantly I had to understand. Yeah. Like, how do I get to play this? How do I get better? Of course, I wanted to blame the disc. It had nothing to do with the disc.
Well, I still blame the discs. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The only tricky part was those ladies were already pretty advanced players. And contrary to kind of the welcome that I got in Edmonton, they weren't really ready to take on like a brand new, starting from sort of zero player. So I just started my own club.
So you started your own club?
Just started my own. I definitely wasn't competing or touring or in tournaments. I wasn't going to be at the level that those ladies were. And I think even if 2 years down the road, they're going to be 2 years better than, like, you know what I mean? There's no catching up, and I'm not super athletic. So I literally just made my own club.
That's what I love. I've heard this quote before, but if you don't get invited to the table, build your own table.
I did, and it started with just a couple women, and now we have close to 200 in a Facebook group. This last Monday, as you saw, we had 14 people, a brand new junior come out, 3 huge cards of fun, and that's just heartwarming and mind-blowing, because in just a couple years, you know, I didn't have some beginner women in my area to play with, so I just found them. Anytime I'd go to like a paint night or a yoga night or any type of activity where women were there, I just have like a little tiny sort of cardstock advertisement, and I'd leave them behind with a QR code. I'd wear disc golf shirts and talk to people about it. And there's no charge for our club. Like, we don't do a league, we don't do membership. It's just come out and play. There's a church that donates discs to us, and we hand them out to new players. It's just the Discmania starter pack players, like the simple ones. But when they come 3 times, they get their mid-range. And when they come another 3 times, they get their putter. And when they come 3 more times, they get their driver. So we figure after 9 times, you must like us, or really want, you know, a $35 set of discs.
Well, I really hope that maybe EDGA's listening too. Hey, Darryl, because that's a nice way to get people kind of caught up. It's almost like me with Starbucks, and when I buy enough Starbucks, I have enough stars for a free drink. But this is cooler because it's disc golf, and you're getting discs the more you participate.
Yeah.
And we thought, like, each time they come out, we sort of slowly work in some rules, some features of our park. We do have a bit of a water carry. We do have a path that cyclists use, they go through. So each time they come out, we just sort of help them get into the sport a little bit more. And I would hope after 9 times of doing something, you know, they've made friends with the group. They kind of want to stick around. They like us. They like, you know, we make it as non-committal and as simple as possible. There's no, I even debated with like calling it like Ladies League. We just call it Ladies Night.
Gotcha.
And we're not like the St. Catharines Disc Golf League. We're just a club. Right. So, you know, we sort of talked about these key words that some people associate with money or payment. Like a league, you're paying and you're getting paid, but a club is just a club. Right. Anyone can be in our club.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you know what's funny when you say that, Andrea, is that Darryl and I, how many times have we joked about this? Darryl's been, you're now a year? Is it a year of disc golf?
I'm over a year now. I'm like 13, 14 months.
Yeah. And we tend to joke, it's like, oh, well, we just thought this was the regular thing you did. You know, you watched disc golf for a few years, then you started playing it, and then you just started a podcast. But you've taken that one step further and said, you know, you go and you caddy, throw a disc or 2, and start your own club. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
It did exactly what I hoped it would do. Was it produced women that were new. You know, I wasn't all that great myself. And I met Colleen McInnes very shortly after, who gave me some tips on throwing. And then she offered to come to St. Catharines. She's about an hour away. And she said, let me know the next time you've got a couple ladies coming out, and I'll come out and give them like a little demo. She actually brought a CTP disc with her, like just a little sort of incentive to have people come along. And that made a huge difference, because then they could see a professional woman, and you know, she can stand on the tee pad for 1 and throw at basket 3 on my course.
Gotcha.
Right.
And that was just...
Go ahead, Darryl.
I know with EDGA, I know we have a lot going on in the summer. We have a lot of leagues where anyone can join, and you know, they're never marketed to any sort of skill level. Everybody's welcome, you know, beginners and intermediates and advanced and everyone like that. But in the wintertime, we have the winter clinics, and also we have the putting league and things like that. We always have things going on for people to sign up for. But actually, you know, maybe that might be something that EDGA is interested in. I know we have Matt Dwyer on before, who's, you know, involved with growth, you know, getting out to schools and things like that. But maybe there's room, or maybe there's something there about getting like a beginner league, encouraging newer players to get out and just maybe not so much running the leagues in the wintertime when people don't have anything to do, but actually running some sort of a summer clinic, getting those people out in the summer, because that's when they want to get outside, right?
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to say, it's funny that, we've had Brendan on the show before, who wanted to play disc golf in Camrose, so he designed a course and opened up his own disc golf store. And now we have Andrea on the show, who wants to play disc golf and just started their own league or club, just because that's what they needed. That's what the need was there. So they just decided, there's no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it.
And Darryl, Andrea didn't stop there, though.
Let's
move on to what did you do next, and tell us how we got to that. Is then you created the CWE, or were part of the creation of that. So we can't wait to hear about that. And for those who don't know, that's the Canadian women's event.
That was basically, it came out of the WGE. So as the women who had joined got better, and as I started wanting to compete in some of those tournaments that I'd seen, which the whole idea of just a Facebook group and something that's non-threatening and free sort of came from EDGA, because nobody told me I had to pay that $20. I met a person who played with me and showed me the ropes, and they didn't charge anything. Tim actually gave me my very first mini, I think the second or third day that we were there. And I hung on to it for close to 2 years. And then I was in a tournament with a woman who didn't have one. So I gave her that one. Awesome. And I told her how special it was and kind of how it came to be. I also have backup minis because I leave them everywhere. I decided at that point, I went back to Colleen because she had been running WGEs in Bronte in her club. And I went to one. And that, again, just changed everything I thought I knew about disc golf. Like, this was a sold out 72 women on the field, WGE, and it was amazing. They had bubbles. They had a little message board where you could write encouraging things to each other. They had pros. They had everything. They had food trucks. They had tacos. Like, it was just, there's no comparing. There's no comparing an event like that. And I had asked Colleen, I said, the next time this comes around, could I run one for the women in my club? Because they were a little hesitant to go all the way to Bronte or to play with, people that were a lot better than they were. I said, could I just run one that's maybe FA4 and FA3 in my club and just keep it small? So I did run one. And then after that WGE, as we were kind of sitting in the afterglow of it and celebrating a bit, my team leader for Disky Chicks, Mindy Mayal, who's absolutely amazing, we were sitting and the emails were coming in about the player survey, and that was when the decision was made that the WGE would be biennial.
Right.
And we should just clarify, the WGE is the Women's Global Event, which is every 2 years. Yeah.
The big one.
Yeah, good point.
I didn't realize it was every 2 years because the first time I'd competed in one, COVID sort of bumped things around and the year changed. So I thought they were every year. And I just assumed with them filling up and how much disc golf was growing in Ontario that they would be every year. So when the player survey came out that there was TD burnout, sponsor burnout, and they decided to keep them every 2 years, we were kind of in shock because we just put these amazing events that were full and had lots of attendance out. We couldn't figure out where this burnout was coming from, because it's not what we were experiencing growth in Ontario. So Mindy literally said, well, if we do an event next year, will you run one? And this was 8 months before the first CWE. So because the WGE had sort of passed through the summer because it was in August that year. So we were sitting around in October getting these messages that there wasn't going to be another one for 2 years. So Mindy started messaging other female TDs, other people that had run events. And she just said, let's just do our own then. If the PDGA is not going to run one every year, we're just going to do one.
Yeah, right.
And that was it. It became a Facebook Messenger group that became just a snowball of events from there. And we were able, in less than 8 months, with our small committee that is coast to coast. So we had everyone from PEI to BC and everything in between. We put together 19 events.
Wow.
19 of them.
19 in the first year?
19 in the first year. And
That's
that was
amazing.
just, we were dealing with time zones, people who can get to meetings because there's 3 hours difference. We wanted to make sure that there wasn't, even though Ontario is the largest province, we didn't want all of the committee to just be in Ontario. Like, we felt it was really important to have people from every province if possible, because the needs, the problems we were going to run into, in Edmonton aren't the same as here or in New Brunswick. So we sort of threw together a committee of anyone who was willing to do anything, because we didn't even know what it was. We didn't know what the jobs were. We didn't even know what the need was. We just knew in 8 months we were going to do an event in May.
Right.
And it seems crazy now. Like, it was a lot of nights spent figuring things out. I would say it was about as perfect as it could be. There were things that we sort of made notes on and that we tweak for the next year. But we just decided that the years that the WGE is not offered, then there would be a CWE. And in the years that it is offered, they would just be conjoined. Because all of our requirements to be part of the Canadian Women's event are based on the Women's Global. So having the divisions offered, having washrooms on site, having all of those things seemed to make sense to us. That's what brought women to our events in the first place. So we just kept it consistent and said, we'll take those requirements and we'll just run events every year. In the year that the WGE is offered, then we have a choice of players packs. We could do one or both or a different one. And there are events this year that are combined WGE and CWE.
Right.
Which also just helped.
A WGE year would be this year. So this is where you'll have the two events at the same time.
It is. And then there's some like the event in Lethbridge, which is a Club B tier and a CWE and WGE.
And we're going to be at that one. Hey, Darryl?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Rebecca Johnson is teeding that one, and she is just dynamite.
Yes.
Basically, we hope it to be a very small amount of work for TDs. And then the benefits are the funding from PDGA Canada, and then also the funding that our committee is able to do. So we were able to raise, I think, close to $2,400 in disc auctions this year. And we just divide that out between the events so that on top of the PDGA funding, each event is able to get, I think it's close to $200, as well as some CTP prizes that were donated from MVP. So it's sort of getting sponsors and people to recognize that in the year that there isn't a women's event globally, there can be one in Canada, that there's a need for it and we can support the growth with it.
Awesome.
So this year, I think we have 12. We have a few less than we had last year, but then we have new TDs that we're working for the first time. So we're hoping next year to have even more than 19, because we would be the only sort of coast-to-coast women's event next year in May.
Yeah.
Right.
The other big difference is that I know even in Ontario, there are 0 WGEs being held in Ontario because it falls on Victoria Day weekend.
Right. And now, is it right, Andrea, that with the WGE, it is one specific weekend, but kind of with the CWE, you've taken the approach that the different weather maybe or different things that are happening in Canada, that having it all on one day is maybe not the best solution to get the most women to come out to these events. So it's spread out a little different. Is that right?
That's where we just tailored it to be Canadian. The WGE does have to take place on the 18th or 19th. So the first year I held mine, because I don't have propagators in my club, Colleen ran hers on the Saturday and I ran mine on the Sunday. So then some of the women from Bronte made the drive down to St. Catharines and were able to propagate the event, which was, again, amazing. And I was able to go there on Saturday. So the day before I ran my own event, in 37-degree weather, I went to Bronte and played 2 rounds there, and then came home and did the last-minute prep for my own event, which was crazy.
That's impressive.
I'm pretty sure I had heat stroke, and I was probably nuts, but I'd done pretty much 95% of the prep. Like, I'm definitely a planner. Being a teacher, I had everything in color-coded bags. I had all my CTP flags assembled. Everything was in labeled boxes ready to go. So I was able to play the event the day before. When we talked about the WGE just being that weekend, Because I also sit on the PDGA Women's Committee, I brought this to PDGA early, pointed out how important this holiday is, and I put up just a poll in my own group and asked if there would be any women that would want to have an event that weekend, and I got one.
Right.
And oddly enough, it's because she has plans the weekend that I am hosting my CWE. So I tried to explain sort of the importance of Victoria Day and cottages and camping and what that means to Canadians. But that's the way the WGE has been, is just those 2 days, because it is a global event. So for the CWE, as long as your event falls between May 1st and June 30th, we qualify.
Oh, great.
You do need to offer all female divisions, so pro and am, which is a big lineup. But obviously, if you don't have someone register for FP55, then you just have to offer it on registration.
And would
So
they offer juniors as well? Is that part of
yes,
it too? So all the divisions from junior right up to FPO?
yes. And with my event, I actually offer both gendered juniors, because there's quite a few women in my club who have either grandkids or children of their own that come out and play the event. So I sort of do anyone under 18, I'll offer MJ15 and FJ15.
Fair. That's great. Now, when you guys started to develop the CWE and were looking at it, did you guys, as a board and as a group, did the ladies come up with some goals of what the CWE wants to do? Or like, do you guys have a mandate that you're trying to follow or something like that? I don't want to put you on the spot. Or is it just kind of been, what's the need and let's fill that need?
The first year was a lot of chaos. It was, we have 8 months to plan this. Go.
Right.
Go find a job and just go do it. Find discs, find sponsors, find women to run it, train new TDs if you have to. It was a little bit of like hit the ground running. We're putting together a constitution and hoping to be, a nonprofit organization. We're hoping that it grows and builds, but that comes also with, needing to have elections, needing to have minutes, even to get bank accounts and PayPals and things set up. Like, as I'm sure you're experiencing, it's not the easiest sort of thing to do. We didn't want the momentum that the WGE had to sort of fall off. We saw this great growth through COVID. We wanted to keep that going. So even if the event wasn't polished and perfect, even if we didn't have a constitution in place, we knew we wanted to run events for women. We wanted to keep them playing, keep them coming out, keep them sort of working towards something, not to lose that piece of it. So sort of if there is even an off season anymore, in our downtime, we still sort of try and figure out trophies for next year, sponsors for next year. Even now we're getting better at sort of pinning, this is a fundraiser we're going to start out with next year. Even something like having the postage for the national trophies, because we do have Angelica Haggard, who I think she works in conjoint with PDGA, and she did a national rating for us last year. So we were able to award a national FPO champion. Nice. And a national FJ15 champion, and so on. And Goat Towel supplied the trophies for those. They were absolutely stunning. They're a black towel with gold embroidery that said like FA50 champion. And they had the logo in the center. So it was sort of let's just figure this out and get it going. We took the results from the events and we ran with it. We're already sort of looking in this year's downtime to make next year better and sort of try and pre-plan as much as we can. I think like anything, you just get better at it. I was definitely not prepared for the amount of new TDs that we had step up. I still felt that I was new myself and that I couldn't help anybody, but at least I'd been through it once myself. So just things with tournament director and moving groups around and having a mouse, not trying to use the one on your laptop, because I tried that and it's awful and it failed. Like just these little tips, like having extra garbage bags.
Yes.
All those things that I was thinking, I've watched Carrie Neal's podcast with you guys, unfortunately 3 times, which is why I'm a little slower getting through some of them. But I was thinking of the kit that she made.
Yes.
And I have those, like they're just ready to go tournament kit things. They're downstairs with first aid and, extra female supplies and batteries, tape, all that stuff that you need to have at your fingertips.
Well, that was one of those things, Andrea, when we would listen to Carrie, she was, just such a wealth of information from all that time that she's done planning those events and so many tips about the women's events as well.
I was still writing as I was listening to the podcast too, and thinking, that's great. That's great. That's why I had to go back and listen to it, because it's like I wanted to really relive the stories that she was telling too. Like I wanted to pause and sort of picture, some of the things she was talking about. And then I was making notes about other things that I could do to make my own tournaments better too, which was kind of awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
just odd to be new at something yourself and think, how can I possibly help someone else? But these women were stepping up to run events in their cities, and they'd never run anything.
Right.
So I had this wealth of experience that at least I could share. And it was more a case of don't do this, don't do this. Make sure to get the permit
Learn from
in.
my mistakes, right?
Yep. Make sure to get your sanctioning agreement in place. Make sure you have insurance. Make sure to invite the mayor.
Yes.
Just little tips as you go sort of along, and you learn that, all of these things are helpful when you're putting together events and you want them to be really successful. So
Yes.
even this year, I reached out to our provincial parliament, and I have some MPPs coming from Toronto.
Wow.
To do the first disc toss for my event. So
that's awesome.
I mean, sometimes if you ask, people will come. Yeah. And after 3 years of running women's events, like it's really starting to take on a life of its own. And I really enjoy helping new women, because there's an excitement to planning your first tournament. Just like being there for someone's first disc toss or their first day of disc golf. When you plan and execute your first event, it is it's like a thesis, or watching your kid grow up. I don't even know how to explain it, but you watch this thing that you plan and nurture and take care of and put all of your time and effort into. And then it's just amazing. And it's like a wedding, like Carrie said, it's over before you know it. And you're dying to look at the pictures because you don't even remember half of what went on, but it was great. And everyone had a great time. And the women are laughing and crying and hugging you and thinking it's great. And I don't think I left TD Central for the whole day, but it's what happens around you, the stories that you get after too, that are just amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you might not get to experience it in that moment at that time, but you hear those stories for days, months later, right?
Even catching up with the socials, like seeing people take pictures of the park. Some people stayed over in the city. For me personally, I had 2 lovely ladies that play an FP 75 come all the way from Michigan to attend my event. And I couldn't believe, at first, a lot of the women in my club will click on P because the professionals come first. So I'm forever moving them down to the amateur one. And I thought maybe these ladies had done the same mistake until I went and looked at their PDGA and realized they are definitely professional players coming from Michigan. And they're Nancy Wright and Janie Darling. They are coming yet again this year.
Fantastic.
And I asked them, I said, like, how are you driving all this way, like 5-6 hours to come to this event? And they said, well, it's a women's event and you offer our division.
That's awesome.
That's all it takes, right?
Yeah.
Just mind-blowing. Like for me, this year, I actually have someone coming from Calgary. She lived in Niagara Falls and she's moved out to Calgary, as well as lots of Ontarians, obviously, from a ways away. Someone from New Brunswick, Connecticut, the ladies from Michigan, and then a crew of women that we play with cross-border in Western New York. So we just attended one of their 716 Chicks in the Sticks event. And then some of them are going to come over for the CW in St. Catharines too.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Well, Andrea, how about we jump into the events? So you said this year there's 12 events, and I've got it listed here. And if you want, I can either run them off, or do you want to tell us where some of them are going to be located this year if you've got them?
Do you have them all memorized?
I should, as many times as I type them. The first one is really easy because Kristin is obviously running our first one in Edmonton, which is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have a couple of joint events, and I sort of cheated. I have a Post-it note like off to the side where I was like, which one is after that? The next one, my team lead, Mindy, Disky Chicks, is doing one at Newcastle. So Tanya, who is in charge of that course at Newcastle, they have one on the 11th.
And then Ontario, so we got an Alberta and Ontario.
The next weekend after that is the big one. That's the one I had to write down because we have Idlewild and Cranbrook. We have the Ottawa Chain Maidens, the Heiser Lilies in Saskatchewan, the Crocus Crush in Winnipeg, and then the Spring Runoff in Lethbridge.
You got
So
it.
all
That's
5 in one
amazing.
weekend, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Then all lonesome on my own is mine on the 25th.
Right.
So that's the only one so far. Barry this year, Victoria Feniger, is actually running one on a Wednesday. I think that is her
Oh.
regular women's league night. So when I asked her about it, she said if the women are coming out on Wednesday anyway, why don't we just do it Wednesday?
Makes
There
sense.
you go. Makes sense.
So it's one round. We do make them, you can optional. You can just do one round or two. Then I think into June, we have the New Brunswick,
Mm-hmm.
the
The Chicks and
Chicks and
Chains.
Change.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
that one, Jolene, who's also one of my teammates, she's running that one in New Brunswick. And then Victoria's actually doing a second one at Abbey Gardens in Halliburton. So it flips
Right.
back to Ontario. So we have one TD running 2 events, who
Wow.
also works with TopLink, but she's doing 2 events 2 weeks apart, which is amazing, in 2 different spots. And then Paulina is running one in Guelph. And I think that should
That
be
covers
12.
them.
It
That's
should be
about it,
12.
yeah.
I've counted them all out.
Well, and here, Andrea, when I was looking, it's 12 events in 6 provinces. So we've got Alberta covered, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC, and New Brunswick. So that's pretty impressive. Like you've gotten, it's not too much longer before you'll have one in every province. So that's pretty impressive. And on top of that, when I checked, because I was doing my digging and doing my research on disc golf scene,
Jeremy has more than a post-it note.
yeah, I do my notes. There's over 225 women participating already. And some of these events, I don't even think they've opened their registration quite yet. There was a couple there where they didn't have any registered. It was still waiting on disc golf scene. So this early, you've got 225 people registered for the Canadian women's events across Canada, which is amazing.
Well, I know Mindy's a little nervous because we did order 500 discs. So we are projecting 500 players packs that we've put together, discs as well. There might be a few extras that we can sell. We've got some heavy EMAC truths that we're thinking some of the fellows might like to have with the logo on it. So she did order some extra. The interesting thing is with 19 events last year, we did have PEI, we had some events in Quebec as well. So we were a little more spread out in terms of diversity. And the numbers this year seem oddly close. Like when we sat down to look at the discs that we were purchasing, I think we purchased 100 or 150 less. So we have less events, but those events are probably going to have more people in them because there are less, and there isn't a WGE, say for instance, anywhere in Ontario. So this has sort of become the women's event if you're attending one. We also encourage people to try and attend multiple ones. I'm hoping to make the one at Newcastle and maybe the one in Guelph as well, in addition to hosting my own.
Right.
I'm ever hopeful that my 698 rating might get above 700 so I can be a propagator, but I try not to chase the numbers too much, but it's close.
Yeah.
Well, it's the only number I care about because then I can actually help propagate other women's events and other layouts.
Yes.
If I hit 701, I'm good. I'll never look at my rating after that.
Yeah, just 701 and holding. Hey, that would be.
I need a shirt that says that. 701 and holding. Am I next? Still me?
That's awesome. Now, also with your events, like we found, and as you saw when you listened to the Carrie Neal episode, is that she really planted a seed for Darryl and I. And it was like, it shouldn't have been a light bulb moment, but it was a light bulb moment for the two of us where she had said, it's nice that we're talking about supporting women's disc golf, and it's nice that we're doing those things, and this is all good work. But when it comes to the actual tournament, who's showing up and volunteering? Are there men volunteering? That kind of thing. And Darryl and I went, right. Yeah. We just thought maybe you didn't want us there at all. But then sure enough, we quickly said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to us. And then we signed up to volunteer for She's Up First with Kristin. And then a lot of our listeners as well, after listening to the show, they've signed up as well. So are you encouraging as well across all the other events is that if husbands or partners or other people are interested and they're not playing, but they could come out and help and volunteer in one way or another?
100%. I think each of our TDs has put out a call for sort of volunteers. I know Mindy was pretty overwhelmed because last year was her very first event ever. She's a little older than I am. I won't say how old, but she was definitely a little intimidated by the computer sort of stuff. She's like, I don't think this is for me. So she had Carl Forbes, who you may have heard of, Nico, his amazing son. If not, they are definitely guests that you need to have on the show.
Okay.
Oh, good. Well, thank
A
you for
Nico
that.
Forbes plug. You will for sure have to look at this little guy because he's been out throwing me since he was 5 years old, and he is just as charismatic as he is talented. Carl actually stepped in to help Mindy with the computer PDGA stuff. So he set up all of her groups, set up her players cards so that she could just do the meeting and sort of relax. But that was a great way of, someone in her area who stepped in and just alleviated a burden that she was worried about, and she was able to run her own event. And then this year, now she's not so worried about it. I'm not sure if he's going to assist with the one at Newcastle, but between her and Tanya, and I'm sure Chris, her husband, is going to help out in there too. There were 6 or 7 photographers at her event, just men who play in the area and like to do photography and offered to come for the day and take pictures. So anything along those lines, our TDs have sort of put out calls asking, because I know I've never been a guy, obviously, in disc golf, but I can imagine it's hard. Like, you don't know whether you should be there or ask, like, is it just a day for women? The way I try and look at it is it's a day to celebrate women.
Yeah.
So, my partner, although I'm sure he doesn't like it as much as I hope he does, he gets roped into months of planning. He's also my event photographer. It's just one of those where he takes a couple thousand photos, puts them up for people after the event as sort of a, here, take some pictures and share them kind of thing. He's got some really nice camera equipment. This was where I guess some of the battle and the work that Carrie did paving, I was already sort of a recipient of that in Ontario, that as soon as I wanted to run a women's event, my sort of disc golf brothers, there's a couple guys that I met when I started playing. My friend Joe, Jason, who's Judge Havoc, who does a lot of art for disc golf community. These were guys that I met a couple weeks into coming back from Edmonton. They've supported everything that I've done. They literally are like my family. They're just like, all the love to these guys. They are there every single wet towel, soggy, I don't want to play anymore day. And as soon as I said I'm going to run a women's event, it wasn't, can I help? It was, what am I doing?
Awesome.
Right.
Like, they just assumed right away. Joe had this great idea, since our course is circular, that he actually drives every one of the women to their starting holes.
Oh, like a shuttle.
Like chauffeur. We sort of
yeah.
say it might not be the nicest course. We've got some challenges being in the downtown area of St. Catharines, but it is 5-star service at the CWE in St. Catharines. And they show up at 5:00 in the morning, and I run the death out of them for 10 or 12 hours. They empty garbages, they run cards, they grab CTP flags, they do absolutely everything. And the only thing they get is some relatively okay pizza for lunch and a t-shirt. But it's not even that. Like, they maybe if I was in Carrie's situation like 10-15 years ago, I'd have to ask, but I feel like I'm already the recipient of some of her work, because people were coming to me and asking, like, can I donate a CTP prize? Can I come and take pictures? Can I help you set up your T-pads? Is there anything that you need me to do to help? And in the beginning, I didn't even know. I didn't know what I even needed help with. But the guys, having been to more tournaments, they sort of knew.
Right.
They also kind of imparted some things, like they didn't like backups at events, or, instead of putting all the washrooms at TD Central, I was actually able to get one at hole 9, because it's sort of like an oval. So it's sort of like things that, because I haven't actually competed in many events myself, like, I didn't have bad experiences to fall back on either. So they kind of said, hey, I really love this tournament, but the washroom was really far away, or you had to go before you left because there was nothing along the course. So it kind of also helped in planning things to avoid maybe some of the missteps that other TDs had. So they were imparting knowledge just from other events that they'd went through, which instantly made my event better, because it was just a matter of asking the guy dropping off the washrooms to run one down to hole 9 and drop it there. When your course is a circle, it was no skin off his nose to do that.
Right.
For sure.
You mentioned there about your partner taking photographs and things like that. I know we've spoken before. Was that one of your promises to him, that you said that he would never get roped into taking photographs?
No, I think we were supposed to get married during COVID. So I think we're in year nine of engagement. It's been a long time engagement, but I've sort of decided that along Carrie's lines of it being like a wedding, you know how you do those like dance lessons, like couples do those,
Mm-hmm.
let's take dance lessons before we get married. I think you have to run a tournament. If you can run a tournament together and not kill each other for 6 months before that event happens, if you're not sleeping on the couch, if somebody's not in the garage, if you're not going to bed angry with each other, and the event actually happens without you killing each other, you're good to go. That's
There
my
you
new
go.
relationship standard for it's a lot. I don't realize how much I put on him, or just having 60 players packs all over my office. Like, this behind you is neat and clean because you have to see it today, but it's because all my player pack stuff got shoved to the basement. It
Okay.
takes over the house, it takes over everything. And it's not just the pictures. He made signs because our course unfortunately gets a lot of damage. So
Mm.
there was nice T signs, there were nice hole markers, and most of those things have been destroyed over the years. So he just started making his own. Like, they're just pink and purple arrows, but they're directional arrows so that people know where to
Yeah.
navigate through the course. He sort of found things to do that he could help because he's not really a people person. I definitely am all about the hugs and talking to people and probably talk to them too long. But doing the check-in, seeing players and that players meeting, that is 100% what I live for. I
Right.
insist on doing my own check-in and registration because I want to hug every single one of those girls. I want to hand them an awesome players pack. Like, that is what tournaments are for me. He
Yeah.
is quite happy to hide in the bushes all day, gnaw on some cold pizza, take pictures of people, and not have to talk to anyone.
Mm. Can I ask a question with that, Andrea? So you're saying that you've been engaged for quite a while, and I'm sure now that you're into disc golf, when that day finally comes, if you guys decide to go further and there's a honeymoon, does he realize that the location of the honeymoon is all going to be based on disc golf now? And it's not going to be about going to Fiji or Hawaii unless they've got great disc golf courses?
he he's such a great person that he always gives me the benefit of the doubt. But when he did kind of ask about a honeymoon, I had to look away from him because I'm not really good at lying or hiding anything, as I'm sure you can say. And he was like, "What are you thinking for a honeymoon?" And I did one of these. How about Finland?
Estonia, I hear, is really good.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Finland?" I was like, "Well, yeah, like Finland, with all the Finnish stuff." So of course,
They've got flowers or something.
Well, I mean, I'm quite a foodie, and I couldn't even name like a Finnish dish to save my life. I said, well, they probably have a lot of fish, and I like seafood. So, like living in the middle of Canada, let's go to Finland. A few days later, he kind of realized the gig was up because he very sternly, looking me right in the eyes, asked, "Are there many disc golf courses in Finland, and are you bringing any discs?" And I said, "There's a few. There's a
one or
few."
two.
And I probably will put my discs in my carry-on just so they don't get lost and checked because they're like my children.
Yeah.
To make matters even worse, my family, because of course, once I got into disc golf, I had to spread this love to everybody. The day I introduced my dad and my uncle to disc golf, they, on the 30-minute drive back home from Lindsay, Ontario, decided that they were going to build a course.
Oh, wow.
We do have a large property, and my uncle and my aunt live there, and they decided they were just going to build one of these things. And I
That's
said,
awesome.
okay. I said, go ahead, build a course. And my dad called me New Year's Eve, and he said, there's some guy named Bird something, and he threw a disc 800 feet. Is that like a thing? And I was like, you're talking about Eagle McMahon, and you're probably watching cover. I said, yes, Eagle
It's a
McMahon
thing.
can throw a disc 800 feet. It is a thing. So he
That's funny.
decided that they were going to have an 800-foot hole so that Eagle McMahon could come and play their course.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that bird guy.
Daryl,
I love that
Andrea,
I knew who it was. That was what was
that's
more
good.
upsetting.
I was
I
trying to
knew
think.
exactly
I was trying to pick up on the clue.
Yeah.
I knew exactly which course and coverage he was watching, which was
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I had one more thing on that too, that I think this is an idea. Like we have talked with Brendan from BR Disc Golf, and then I'm a Limber Pinecone, and that's another disc golf store out here. So Limber Disc Golf and Disc Republic is a really big store out kind of central Canada. I think we've got a new idea, Andrea, with all this talking here. What about a disc golf store wedding registry? Where you can put all of the discs and the baskets and the shirts and everything you want. You put it on there. What do I get you for your wedding? Do you guys want dishes? Well, they're kind of like dishes. They're round like that.
I was actually thinking that since we've already got the course, we could just take the picnic tables, amass them all in the middle, which we call the pit anyway. Yeah. We could do all latitude discs. You could just flip them upside down and eat off them. We could do a barbecue style. And of course, your takeaway gift is going to be a mini with our name and date, because why not?
There you
That's
go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea, we're kind of running a little bit of time here because we're going to have Kristin on next, but I want to get to another staple of our show with you. But before we do, I just wanted to make sure, was there anything else that we didn't cover about Canadians women's event, or anything about that you wanted to make sure to put out there before we move on to the staple of the show?
I really love that you talked about men volunteering, because I think all of the events could definitely help that, because if we're playing, obviously we need help running things. I also think just letting women know that if you've never run an event before, neither had I. And neither had every single one of the TDs. Carrie Neal had to run her first event at some point too. We try to be like PDGA event support. I keep my phone number. I kind of put it out everywhere. I don't care if your event and you're having a meltdown in the middle of it, like call me, we'll figure it out. If, we'll just get through it. Even if you're a beginner, go play an event. I have a woman who started 3 weeks ago, and she's playing in my event on the 25th of May. It doesn't matter how new you are. There's a division for you. There's a spot for you. There'll be people who know the rules that can help you. There's no excuse. Just do it. Run an event, go to an event, help out with an event. It doesn't matter. There's going to be someone, you're going to make someone's day. You're going to make their tournament experience. You're going to become part of their disc golf history. And then they're going to have things to talk about when you call them on the show.
Exactly. I think we talked about this before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that there was 5 women that run the CWE, and that, like you said before, that when people call, they're calling your cell phone. Like wherever you are, you're the one that picks up the phone. It's going to be your cell phone. It's not a receptionist. It's not a forwarded number or anything like that. They're calling your cell phone directly. So
that's just sort of the lifeline, that it's supposed to be women helping women, women supporting women, women throwing with women, and women growing together. We help Brian Honegger of the PDGA with sort of the dispersion of funds. So we try and act as sort of the go-between, so that 1 million people aren't emailing Brian and asking him. We're like, send us your questions, send us your phone calls. We don't care if it's 2 a.m. You can call, you can text. I'm probably up putting things in baggies and I'll answer you anyway. It's just that comfort of knowing that someone's there, someone's got your back. We were all new in the beginning somewhere. And it's really important for me as a player who didn't really know where I fit in the beginning, that people know that this event is for absolutely everyone. We offer all the way up to FP90, FA90. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. Nothing. If there's a division out there, grab a friend, go play in it. You can do it. Just go do it. It'll be the time of your life and you'll love it.
There you go. Awesome. That's a great segue. You bring it back to some staples in the show.
The dirty dancing. You like
the
that,
dirty
right?
dancing. Yeah, we've already given you one staple of the show. So we would be remiss if we didn't give you another one, because we can't have you on the podcast and not give you one of these, Andrea.
Now it's time for Desert Island Discs. Picture this. You've taken a relaxing cruise, however the ship goes down. You manage to swim to an island. And fortunately for you, there's an 18-hole disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you on the island?
Now, obviously, you said that you've watched numerous of our episodes. You've been going back. I don't know did you ever turn around and come from the beginning and work your way? Because you were going back in order. So, but yeah, the show. You know this part of the show. So,
I think it was Jeremy said that I was watching it de-evolve. which is
Yes.
really cool because it's
Yeah.
like one week I'm listening to it and it's like we have 85 subscribers, and then the next one is like we're up to 71. So it's kind of fun to watch it go backwards. I've made it as
Right.
far as 12 only because Terry's interview I had to watch a few times, Carrie's I had to watch. Like now I'm getting stuck on favorites and I haven't even watched them all. And I
Right.
insist on re-listening to them. So this one
That's
is funny
awesome.
because every time I hear this part of the show come on, it doesn't matter where I am or where I'm listening to, I instantly start yelling out my 3 choices. And since I wasn't sure if you'd have time for it, I didn't really plan them out, but I already know that I want to break your rule.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanna
There's
have
no
4
there's no real
discs.
rules really.
Yeah.
So my driver and absolute love, I first started with Lad 64 discs. They're absolutely a love. I think every woman I've ever played with has had a diamond at some point in their time.
Yeah.
I moved up through the diamond, the jade. Absolutely love my sapphires. Gold line sapphires, opto. I think I bag 5 of them in different weights and different plastics
Right.
because they all do different things for me. So that is for sure my go-to driver.
The
My
sapphire.
it's definitely a sapphire. Gold line one I prefer.
Okay.
Dyed, if I can get away with it, by Creative Disc Golf Dyes because Hannah does
Nice.
amazing work.
Yeah.
If I have to, go on the struggle bus, then I'll take an undyed opto. But
Struggle bus. I like
It's one
that.
that's
I
already
know.
in your bag. So yeah, take whichever one you want.
The second one, actually, I acquired this one by winning an FA2 tournament totally by accident because FA3 got collapsed. And it was
Okay.
either take my registration fund back or move up.
Right.
I was like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I moved up, and this was at Hawks Landing, where I was recently. And the prize was a voucher because I'm an amateur, so I could spend it in the shop. And I got a watermelon hex.
Wow.
There you go.
I
Love
had
it.
no idea. And look how that ties in again.
Yeah.
I know.
There you go, watermelon. Well, I said crave, but there you go.
The watermelon hex, I did have a Halloween glow one that unfortunately I left on a fairway and it wandered off and hasn't made its
Oh,
way
no.
back yet. It had
Mm.
that weird, creepy hand on it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where I got it from. It was probably a used bin somewhere, but I really liked that was my introduction to the hex. So when I had an opportunity, I took that watermelon one. And although it's oddly hard to find in the grass, love it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it was something so unnatural would be hard to find, but it's not easy to spot, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got the bright green rim and then it's pink in the middle, but it's super cute. And then my putter, absolutely cannot live without them. I think my game and what I struggled with most was putting, and it was finding the right putter for my hand
Yeah.
size.
Absolutely.
So I have quite tiny hands, and I found I was putting with a Marshall in the beginning, but my hand was getting caught underneath. I was getting a lot of grip lock and just weird things.
Yeah.
I putt with an A5, 300 plastic only. It's the only Prodigy disc I bag. They're very, very hard to find in Ontario. So I
Okay.
tend to buy them in stacks whenever I can find them. But they're very similar to like a Tactic. Super
Okay.
flat on top, very, very shallow rim. And I find I can just sort of fit my my fingertips underneath them. So I can actually throw them backhand and putt with them. I think they're
Oh.
putt and approach. So
Yeah.
they're definitely amazing. I have one that's 150 grams, and then I have a few 175 grammers as well. And they're definitely my go-to putter. The rule that I have to break is just because I have listened to this segment so many times. I also want a mermaid because they float. And if I'm on a deserted island and I'm on an island, I think
There
I
you
should have
go.
a floaty. And
Yes.
if my ship was sinking, I would grab my bag, and I always bag a mermaid. I jokingly tell new members to our club that Discmania made them for us because the St. Catharines Women's Disc Golf Club has an S with the chain and then a T with the anchor, and then Judge Havoc added the siren for the women's club.
Right.
Nice.
So we have a mermaid on our logo. I know that Discmania did not make them for us, but I tell everybody that they did. So
You're
if I
taking
can
the
break the
extra
rule,
support in the early
Yeah.
days there
Yeah.
of their playing.
that's my rule breakers. I feel if I'm on an island, I should have a 4th disc that floats, because if I lose that
makes
sapphire, I'm going to
sense.
be really sad.
Yeah.
You're taking
Well,
the
we've
Brian
had it-
Fries approach of which dish you take on an island. More
Yes.
practical purposes.
I would
Well,
also
how
eat
many-
off of them, so
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that too.
And how many times, Darryl, has everyone said, Oh, it's going to be windy on this island. You've not said anything about this island, but they've already got it all figured out in their head, right?
Yeah, it's going to be, the sweat on their hands are going to need something. Yeah, no, there is no island.
Their goat towel. Can they bring their goat towel with them,
exactly.
right?
I would recommend bringing a goat towel, of course.
Well, they're always clipped to my bag. I think literally I have 3 of them from my last tournament clip there. I have a Disky Chicks one. I have a Chantel one as well. And just a couple I think, I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I'm fairly certain that the very first stamped goat towel that was made was actually for my club. So Craig surprised me at an event he was running, and I showed up as FA4 to play, nervous as all heck. And he pulled me aside, and he had one of the smaller towels, and he said, "Listen, Andrea, I'm trying to do this thing, like I want to print club towels and logos, but he's like, I did this at 2 a.m. and yours is backwards."
Oh.
So he has I have one of only 2 backwards messed up goat towels. And he's like, I didn't want to give it to you, but you were coming today and I know you're running an event and I just wanted you, the Snows and Goat Towel are such amazing people that he just wanted me to have that towel. Wow. So I said, you know what, Craig, this is the perfect selfie towel.
Yes.
And I don't think he realized what I meant. Like, I could tell by his blank expression that I said, when you turn your camera around and you pose with this one, it's a great selfie towel because the image is reversed. So
yeah,
I clip it on my bag because it's the only backwards towel. But I think it was the very first one before he started actually printing logos on them. It was a test run that he did.
Oh,
that's awesome.
So it's sort of a piece of Canadian disc golf history.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So I do like all those discs, and definitely that watermelon hex. I've got my Simon Lizotte hexes. I think I've got 3 in total now at this point. And it's definitely a staple of the bag. So I think if I was on that island with you and we only had 4 discs, I think I would be fine with your 4 discs. I could use them too.
Well, my sapphires would match your hexes. We'd have one of every plastic.
Yeah,
I don't actually need a disc golf registry because I've got, different types of crystal plastic discs. They're all the same.
Yeah.
It was definitely a hard no. Adam did say no to getting married on our course and having a disc golf wedding. He said that was a hard no. He was okay with the barbecue aspect of it. He could do barbecue truck, but
it's all about
a little give and take there, right?
But eating off of discs and being at the at Wild Country in the Kawarthas, that wasn't doing it for him. Awesome. I've still got a few years to work on him, though.
Yeah, there's still time.
Things are getting expensive, having a family property and a disc golf course. It's kind of a 2-in-1.
Yes. Well, Andrea, we're so excited that you were able to share with us with the Canadian women's events and everything that you're doing. And we thank you and all the ladies that you're working with. And again, encouraging all new women out there who haven't tried a disc golf tournament, maybe because they think it's not what they're into. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated by it. Like, this is going to be a perfect chance over the next couple months here to join one of these Canadian women's events. So first of all, we want to just say before we let you go, if you're out there and you're thinking about playing an event and you're a woman or in one of the divisions, come on out and play. And then also, if you're maybe a partner of somebody there and you're not going to be playing an event, make sure to talk to the TDs and see if you can volunteer. And if we can do that, it's just going to help grow these events even more. So I can't believe how fast the time has gone by, but it's amazing that you're on the show. Thanks for being so supportive of us. We really appreciate it. And we know we're going to be chatting with you as soon as we get off this episode. So
no, you're going to be chatting with me at Masters next year.
In Minnesota, right? Darryl, look at this. Another reason.
See, now you're ganging up on me now.
If I have to come all the way there.
Just going to quickly shout out if anybody wants to follow you, they can follow you on Instagram, Canadian Women's Event.
Awesome.
There you go.
Perfect.
If I have to come all the way to Edmonton to pick Darryl up, to drive to Minnesota, I'm definitely known for having no directional sense whatsoever. I will do that just to make sure you go, because you will be the babies of the event in MA40 and you will have a blast. Awesome. I'm hoping that I can go there so we can hang out in the baby area with the MA40s and FA40s.
I think that's a
get
great
to feel
idea.
young again.
So we've still got some time here. I think we got about a year before those invitations are going to come out. I think we'll have Darryl convinced by then. So Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I love your podcast. I love listening to you. It's just become a staple everywhere I go. And I'm hoping tonight at least you get some more subscribers, because I know that makes a huge difference. I try and use my socials to just get people paying attention to Canadian content. When I see what Parked Pro is doing and that we're actually getting coverage and traction, it's because of people like you. You're bringing this coast to coast. Before you had Colleen on your show, I didn't know who you were, and I'd been to Edmonton. So it's
Right.
kind of, just one guest that you brought on the show is now bringing a lot more followers. So if you're watching the
Perfect.
show because I asked you to, you better click that subscribe button.
I think we've
Thank
got
you
our
very much.
marketing person here, Darryl.
I know,
love
right?
it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank
You got
so
room for
much.
another job, Andrea?
Of
With all
course,
that
you know
extra
what?
time
My
that you
day
have.
job is getting in the way so much that I don't feel like it's getting the attention it needs. And I started teaching when I was 19. So
Wow.
Freedom 47 is coming pretty quickly.
Yes, there you go.
I'll
Awesome.
definitely be in Edmonton a lot more. I know that
And-
my partner's headed to Brandon, Manitoba, which is another city that I've been to a couple times with him and his work, and I love it out there. So I'm not sure how far Brandon is from Edmonton, but I'm willing to figure it out.
It's about 13 hours, 12 to 13. So
It's closer. It's closer than being here, right?
yes,
There you
yeah,
go.
it's halfway. It's halfway. Yeah. So, well, thank you
Thank
so
you very much, Andrea. We
We appreciate it.
appreciate
Thank
you
you
being on the
both.
show.
Okay, we'll see you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Darryl, how do we find these guests? Actually, I know how we find
don't
these
know.
guests. This guest found
Well-
us, and I'm so happy that she did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to word this. I want to say it's just the sport that we're in. Everybody is like this in disc golf. Everyone is so, like she had such amazing stories that when she came to Edmonton, she didn't know anybody. And next thing you know, somebody, Tim was taking her down the disc golf course, showing her how to play, showing the rules, getting her into disc golf, treating her so nicely. And then I feel like that's just what this community is all about.
Yeah, it totally. And that's, big shout out to Tim Sherman, because I've met him a few times there on the course, and just taking someone under your wing like that in the whole Edmonton club. The fact that she was that comfortable after a week or so that she was picking up people and taking them to the course and
Yeah.
just getting a chance to play and was a member. It's fantastic. So
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, I don't think, I don't want to jinx us, and I'm sure we won't, but like every guest we get on, we're just so super happy to have them on. Like everybody brings something different, and every guest that we've ever had on has been awesome, and we've gotten so much out of it that
yes. And
we're
with
never going to get a dud.
No.
Everyone's going to be nice.
And, with what she's done to look for a need and to make that change where you say, okay, there's a women's global event that's catering to women, but they've decided it's on one specific weekend and it's every other year. And that
Yeah.
doesn't work for Canadians because of the weekend. And it doesn't work for us when we're on the off year. So she filled that need and started with her event and built this event that's now 12 different events this year, 6 different provinces. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
225 plus participants.
Yeah. So now a question I have here, because I'm just checking on my messages on the side here of our next guest. Do you see our next guest in the
She's
area before
raring and ready to go, Jeremy.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's fantastic. Well, let's just get right to it. And let's bring our next guest to the show, someone that our listeners should be familiar with, and especially anybody in the Edmonton area. And that would be Kristin Swirles. Hey, there you are.
Hey, Kristin, you're sideways.
Oh,
We got you, but you are sideways. There you go.
There you go.
my phone. Okay, hi.
Hi.
I'm on the app on my phone, and last time I used my computer. Well, long story. Last time I used Tim's computer. Anyway, I'm on my phone, and my phone prompted me to put it in landscape mode.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
landscape
interesting.
mode.
Like this.
So
Well, maybe it was just
do you
to
have
make
your
things
lock on?
exciting when you come on to the show. What do you think, Darryl?
Do you have your landscape lock on, like your orientation lock on your phone?
That's a question that I don't have an answer.
It's all good.
To.
You're the right way up now.
Yeah,
And I bet you're so pumped and you're so energized by the previous guest that we had. I know you were commenting in the chat there. It was so empowering, right?
Yeah, it was great to listen along. I wasn't sure if I was gonna get to chat, like listen along. So I'm glad that I was able to. Listen, if I put my phone like this, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Sometimes my phone does this weird thing when I go like live on Instagram and things, and it's like all muffled, but as long as you can hear me.
Yeah, you're all good.
We can hear you for sure. Well, we were excited to bring you back because we know we've done a full episode with you. If Darryl's on the ball, he might be able to tell us which episode it was. Do you remember which episode?
It was episode 6. Thank you, Kristin.
7, maybe 7. I think Mark 5, 7. Yeah, 7. Yeah. So episode 7, go back and listen if you want to hear Kristin's full story, if you want to hear about her origin story, if you want to hear about her desert island discs, all of that stuff there. But we wanted to bring you back on to specifically because we were talking about Canadian women's events, and the first Canadian women's event is coming up right away, and that's She's Up First, and you are the tournament director. So what better connection than that to bring everything together?
Yeah, I'm really glad you guys reached out. I was so excited to hear that Andrea was going to be on the show because it's so funny. I've known her virtually now for a few years from the Canadian women's event and just from sort of like, following other disc golf people on social media and things. But I really only know her virtually. And so like hearing her speak the last hour, it was like the most that I've like really gotten to know her and listen to her speak. And I knew that she would like say all the greatest things about the CWE and like be really eloquent and like, she founded it. So of course she was going to have lots to say, but she just like impressed me even more than I expected. So thanks Andrea for just like being so authentic and so awesome. And I feel like I know you a little more now.
Yeah.
There you go.
And she had so much energy too. Hey, Darryl, she had the energy for that and the connections to Edmonton. And in just this little short time that we've had a chance to message and text with her and then talk with her, she's coming out to Edmonton to make sure that Darryl goes to Masters. So, she's already number 1 in my books.
Good. I love it. Yeah, that's so awesome. That's great.
So now let's go to She's Up First.
Yeah.
So She's Up First is coming up in just over a week and a half, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, the date is May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th, yeah.
Star Wars Day.
And not only is it the first event of the Canadian women's event, right now, it's also the biggest one when I checked just before the podcast, we have 41 women participating. Is that the biggest that it's been for you so far since you've been working with She's Up First?
Yeah. So this is going to be the 3rd annual She's Up First event and the 2nd year that we've been a part of the CWE because it's the 2nd year for the CWE. And it's by far the biggest. I think Tim has ran the numbers lots, but in the first year we had 27 women and we were really stoked with that. It was like, oh, wow, 27. This is awesome. And then last year we had 32. And so 41 has like blown it out of the water. And actually I'm expecting a couple more registrations to trickle in the next week. I think we'll probably be closer to like 43 by the time of the event.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's a ton of women, like over half the course will be full, which is awesome. And I mean, yeah, I feel like we're well on the way to like maybe only in a year or two being able to like sell out 72 spots. Who knows?
Yeah.
I was listening to Andrea talk about like traveling for CWE events and all the travel that people do for her event. So last year we had a woman from Fort McMurray and we've got women from Calgary and Central Alberta. This year we have someone coming from Grand Prairie.
Nice.
And we also have a competitor coming from Saskatchewan.
Fantastic. Look at that.
So that is, to me, that's really exciting that like, I want to hold space here locally for our community and give the women in our community a chance to play tournament tournament play, and like introduce women to competitive play. But the fact that women from outside of Edmonton are also wanting to come and be a part of that, that's like super exciting.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And with that, are you finding, what is the distribution this year so far, when you've looked at, as best you can tell, of brand new players versus experienced players?
You know, as best I can tell, I mean, we'll know more on the day, because I always have a little like raise your hands if during the players meeting. But as best I can tell, we have a lot of new players. Maybe they're not new players, but certainly new to the event, certainly new to She's Up First. So we are missing a handful of women this year that have been in attendance the last 2 years, and for a plethora of different reasons are not able to make it, which is totally fine. Things happen, you come and go. But it's sort of like that. There's like a staple group that I was expecting to have registered that have not, but we've still way out surpassed our numbers with names that I don't recognize. Like I emailed all the women yesterday with the caddy book and like a little welcome. And I said at the bottom of the email, like, I can't wait to meet you all, because it's going to be, there's probably some women from like the clinics that maybe I did meet at the clinic and I'm not remembering the names. But honestly, like there's names that I don't recognize. So that is really exciting. I think there's a lot of women out there that are newer to the scene, that want to try tournament play, that want to, you know, be a part of the women's community, or whatever their reasons are. I don't know. We'll learn more in a week and a half. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but yeah, I think it's a big ratio of newer players.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Sonia in the chat. It's her first tournament, so she's all excited to play. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think on top of that too, Sonia has been playing just for a little while there, kind of going out with her partner and checking things out. But now that she registered for it, from what I understand, is she's like, okay, let's get out to Hermitage. Let's go practice. Let's get ready for this. So it's the tournament has really started to help motivate her play a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it does that. It does that. Oh, my God. It does that for all of us, right? You know, I don't want to play any other course but Hermitage for the next week and a half, because I'm like, oh man, I gotta get practice at Hermitage. But yeah, Sonia's not alone in that. I know Tim was at Hermitage on like last Monday for dubs, or maybe it was even for something else. And he's like, oh, I ran into this card of women and they said they were out practicing for She's Up First. And so, yeah, Sonia's not alone. There's a lot of women that are just really looking forward to it, I hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and then not only do we have 41 participants, but I think, and maybe I don't know, because this is our first year, Darryl and I are volunteering. How are you doing for volunteers this year? Are we doing okay that way?
We're doing great. I think there's 7 of you guys on the day. Okay. And then we did secure an additional volunteer above and beyond the 7 who is going to go pick up our lunch. I have to shout out Dylan Froelich, because not only is his company one of our title sponsors of the event, Riva, which is revenue data engineering.
He's in the chat. He'll correct you if you.
He'll let us know.
He'll let us know.
But Dylan's wife is also registered, and I think he can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I think it's her first tournament too.
Nice.
And his parents are going to pick up our lunch.
Wow.
That's a real family commitment right there.
And Dylan will be there on the day. I assigned him to some volunteer duties because he said he wanted to help out. So yeah, we're doing okay for volunteers. Honestly, it's kind of like Andrea said. I think, you know, Carrie really paved the way all those years ago when maybe, you know, not maybe, when it was the case that like men were not as excited about women playing disc golf as a generalization. Mm-hmm. And it's just not as much the case anymore. Certainly, I think there's different I think there's different barriers now, and we don't have to get into that tonight because we're just talking about the event and we only have 30 minutes. But certainly I think the support from the men in our community is not as much of a barrier now as it was. So I have also, like Andrea, had a lot of like people reaching out to me just being like, hey, I want to volunteer. Like I didn't put out a call for volunteers. I've had people reach out to say, I want to volunteer. So I made a little list, and this is sort of, last year we had a couple volunteers, but it was like very casual. I was like, yeah, just show up and we'll find something for you to do. And so this is the first year where I'm like, oh, I have a list and I have your guys' emails and I'm going to like give you some tasks because, you know, you want to feel useful as a volunteer. So, yeah, we're in great shape for volunteers. Honestly, like, I mean, if someone else wanted to come out and like spot, that's great. We could, that's, you know, it's always helpful to have spotters. That said, Hermitage is not a course where we need a ton of spotters. And I don't really have that many more tasks. So
caddies are always welcome.
Yeah,
though, right?
Caddies are welcome. And honestly, just supporters are welcome.
Spectators. Even someone just to,
just come, hang out at Tournament Central, spectate for a couple holes. We're going to have vendors at the event. I can't recall if that's on our list to talk about, but
well, I would say, why don't we roll right into it and go into sponsors, because then you could start right there. Is even if you weren't playing or you're not participating in the event, there are so many reasons for you to still come down to this event.
Yes, that's exactly it. So even though we've got ample volunteers and maybe you are not playing in the event, whether you're a guy or a girl, a man or a woman, come down to Hermitage on May 4th, because JK Discs from Calgary is going to be there. They reached out to me and they just said like, hey, we've had requests from Edmontonians that they want us to be in Edmonton more. I think maybe with Gander closing now, I don't know. People just want more of a chance to shop discs again. So JK is going to be there. Wildman Matt's going to be there. Terry is going to be selling some of her like BR putters
Equine.
And also her Equine discs. Yes. And I think Kevin Topping might even be trying to like wood burn some of his live wood burning.
Oh,
on
that
site.
would be awesome.
Like custom, like if you just want to custom get your name on a mini, like just come and see Kevin. I think he can maybe do it for you on site, although I don't want to put him on the spot.
Well, he could at least take your request on site. Whether he can actually burn it on site will remain to be seen.
Yes, he has another week and a half, I guess, to figure out if that's feasible for him or not. But he's going to be there. So there's a lot of reasons to come down. Like Darryl said, caddy, you could just offer your caddy services. Also, like offer your caddy services with no pressure, because not everyone likes a caddy. So like no pressure, but I could caddy.
Otherwise, we probably have duct tape handy if you have trouble, you know, keeping your mouth quiet when you're caddying. We've got duct tape. We can help you out.
Seriously, maybe we should bring a nice roll of pink duct tape to the event. No, I'm just joking. It's gonna be really fun. Lots of reasons to swing by Hermitage on Saturday, May 4th, whether or not you're playing in the event. That said, I do like to preface it. Like I agree with Andrea. It's really a celebration about our community of women disc golfers. But I also like to preface it for the guys. Leave your discs at home.
Yeah.
Or leave them in the car and go throw your round at Rundle after. Like I don't anticipate that we'll have a problem with this, but like don't try to like sneak onto the course and like play through us. I don't anticipate that happening. That's not happened in years past. And I think with all the excitement around the event for the women, I don't think that would happen. But I just like to preface it that like we're celebrating the women and we are giving space for the women to take up as much space on the course, take as long as we want on the course. Like that's what it's there for.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that gives us some of the people who will be at Tournament Central, but that's not all the sponsors you have. You did mention Riva there.
Yes.
And is there some more as well?
Yes. So we have 2 title sponsors, because when I put out a call for sponsorships, and honestly, we could have had more because so many people wanted to title sponsor our event. So we have 2 title sponsors that are sharing the spot, and one is Riva and the other is Wally's 100th, which is his 100th tournament event. He's awesome. He kicked in, and both of those sponsors have donated cash to our event. And Wally's kicking that in right from his Wally's 100th, just to support, which is great. Yeah. We also have United Cycle is on board as just a prizing sponsor. So we have prizes from them. I should have my list because I'm definitely going to forget someone.
Jeremy's
wolf-
prepared.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So you tell, we'll take a look and then you can tell me if you miss anyone.
Well, you know what it was going to be? I had my laptop all set. I actually wanted to show you guys our financial spreadsheet. I don't know if we're going to have time for that tonight, but now I'm on my phone and my laptop's over there. Wolfpack Disc Golf Team, which is a team of like all those folks. I think there's some from Fort McMurray, some from Hinton, some from Edmonton. It's like Wally, the Lychucks. I think Tracy St. Jean is on the team and she's also playing in the event. So I'm assuming she's going to be wearing her jersey. Anyway, they kicked in some cash and prizing for our event, which is amazing. Nice. Bailey's disc golf course, which is now called Seachange Disc Golf
Park. Wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to make sure. If we're going to mention the name,
we're
we might as well
we're
mention the beer.
You guys, I don't even have a beer.
Oh, come on, Kristin. You've been on the show before. You've watched it.
I know. I was,
and it was because of you. It all started, I think. That's why.
No, it was because of you, Darryl, in those first few episodes.
Sorry, enough about that. Enough about the beer. So, disc golf, Bailey's Crossing, which is now Seachange Disc Golf Park.
Yes, they are a prizing sponsor, and they have actually donated one of the prizes that we're going to do. Like, we're going to do a bunch of fun things for prizes, but one of the prizes that the women can win is a year membership at Seachange Disc Golf Park.
Oh, nice.
So that's a pretty sweet prize to take home. Oh, I
think you were going to say Nicole Poprosky maybe next.
Nicole Poprosky, thank you for helping me with my list. Nicole Poprosky has donated it, I think, every year. She's a part of Women's League. She plays the tournament every year. She is such a great advocate for like bringing women into the sport. She's gotten her, sort of like friends and group involved. I don't know if Carla is friends with Nicole or Carla is. I think Carla's related to other Nicole. Anyway, there's like a whole group. Anyway, so she sells Epicure products, and so she donates a really awesome goodie basket. Last year, her goodie basket had like a sweet Kristin Tatar disc in it. So there's like amazing prizes from our sponsors. I might even have my sponsors list right here. Keep naming them off, Jeremy.
There's also that new tour around here. Maybe had to do with the Cold Garden Cup, possibly.
Yeah. We are part of the so not only I wish I was more organized. I'm not as organized
This is awesome.
as you or Andrea. Not only are we the first stop for the CWE, we're the first stop on the Cold Garden Cup tour, which is the Alberta-wide tour. Yeah. And so we got a little bit of cash from the tour, which comes from Cold Garden Brewing, but all of Jordan Alway's amazing efforts with that tour. Mm-hmm. So we have cash support from them, but we also are going to be double points.
Yes.
So if you are a woman who's playing the tour or playing several stops on the tour and hoping to accumulate some points in your division, whatever points that you might get for placing in our tournament are doubled because it's a women's tournament. So that's really exciting too. And if you're sort of like on the fence, but you're thinking about playing some other big events in Alberta, maybe it's not too late. You could just register. So really grateful for Jordan and all the work that he did putting together the Cold Garden Cup, the tour, and really grateful for his support in like reaching out and getting the event involved and sending some cash our way. The thing is, the cash is this is kind of what I wanted to get into, talking about sponsorships, but I don't think we have time in half an hour. I think we got to table this for like the TD Roundtable podcast episode, but like the cash is so valuable because it's really expensive to run a tournament. I put a post out last year. I think you can still find it on my Instagram, but I kind of just like talked about sort of the hurdles of running a tournament. I think the question kind of came from some women in the community, like, why are there not more women's spots in tournaments available sort of like last minute? Like, yes, there's early registration, but then if I can't make it in time, like, and I want to register, why are those spots not available? And TDs really need to sell out their events because it's very expensive to run a tournament. There's a lot of I mean, I could go get my spreadsheet if you want to hear about it right now, but I think maybe that's saved for another time. But yeah, there's just like a lot of costs that really add up.
So anytime a sponsor can step up and donate cash, like every way of sponsoring is probably, you're happy for it and it's good to have, but if they can put some money towards it, it helps with those extra costs.
It's huge. It helps with those extra costs. And then it allows for all the extra fun things that we want. Like really the players' fees can like help absorb the extra cost. That's fine. But then you don't have any money left to do anything else. Whereas the sponsorships of cash really help events to like have better pricing. We're going to have a porta potty on site this year, which is really exciting. Have, you know, better player packs. So like our player pack is 120% value back to the players.
Wow.
We're going to have like lunches for our volunteers. We're going to have just all of those things that sort of make the event a little bit next level. That's what the cash really supports, I guess. So and you know, added cash for the pro purse, added extra prizes for the AMs. Like those are, they make the experience better for everyone.
Yeah. And speaking of some of those extra prizes too with the sponsors, you had mentioned Kevin will be there doing his minis there, but I think he did up some custom ones to give away?
Yeah, so he's also one of our prizing sponsors because he's donated some custom wood burned minis for prizing as well. So he's also on our sponsor list. Thank you, Kevin. Nice. Keep them coming, Jeremy. I don't have my. Should I go get my list?
Maybe another Andrea and Andrea.
Yeah, I think you were
Lease?
just about to say Andrea Leask.
Yes. Oh, you guys, Andrea Leask. This is such a great. I shouldn't get. This is like going to be covered in my players meeting, but Andrea Leask was at the very first event 2 years ago, and she showed up like the night before to pick up her player pack, and she had all kinds of goodies for me. She was like, I have prizes for you. And she just like gave them to me. And she registered again this year. And she messaged me right away and said like, I'm bringing some prizes for you. So she's a prizing sponsor. And then with some of that added cash, I've also agreed to purchase an entry fee for her upcoming women's event. So one of our prizes will also be an entry into the WGE happening in Red Deer.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not on the CWE list, so I don't think you guys spoke about it with Andrea, but it is a WGE event along with Spring Runoff. So if you're an Edmonton local woman and you're not going to get all the way down to Lethbridge for WGE on the May long weekend, there is a much closer option for you. Like you could even just go for the day because Andrea is hosting a WGE on May 18th in Red Deer. Right. So we're going to be giving away a entry to that event. Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's May long, but also if you don't have plans like for the whole weekend and you can spare one of your days of May long to go play a tournament, I think it would be great for the Edmonton women because you don't even have to stay overnight. Like you could drive up that morning. It's just in Red Deer.
Right. Right. And then I think we did cover Canadian Women's Event and that they're part of this. And then another organization near and dear to the three of us would be the Edmonton Disc Golf Association.
Yes. So EDGA is the reason we're getting a porta potty. They have donated the cash for the porta potty. Maybe people, if there's still some people live, they could vote in the comments. We were thinking about naming it, spoiler alert, we were thinking about naming it Tim Sherman's Portaloo or something like that, which kind of fits nicely because Andrea has that nice story of Tim Sherman too. So we were going to maybe dedicate, and Tim Sherman's a previous EDGA board member for many, many years and contributor. So we were thinking about maybe giving Tim the shout out for the porta potty, but if the viewers in the chat or maybe later when you post this, people in the comments want to name the porta potty, we can put a sign on it. That's coming from EDGA. And yeah, you guys, and it can't be overlooked. I know I don't want to skim over the CWE. Andrea has really, what she said earlier tonight, that the mission of the CWE is just to really make it as easy as possible for the TDs is so true. It's very accessible for me as a TD to partner with the CWE. It's really, really simple. The CWE is doing amazing work with the PDGA as well as on their own fundraising. And in total, I got like more than $500 from the CWE, which part of that is their fundraising and part of that is PDGA support. Right. And that's huge. That's the reason we have added cash for the pros. That's the reason we, can have all the little extra goodies that we're going to have. So that it's just huge.
So important to have an organization like that.
It's amazing work that she's doing and she's busting her butt. And I just like plug and play. And I'm like, yeah, Andrea, I'd love to be a part of the CWE again. And, I meet all the qualifications and, advertise for CWE and support the event and support the fundraisers. And it's so easy. So thank you, Andrea, again. Thank you so much, all the women of the CWE. And if you are a woman listening to this and you want to learn more, join that women's Facebook page. It's just like Canadian Women's Disc Golf on Facebook. Join the page, message Andrea. Yeah, you can. There's lots to learn if you want to learn more.
Well, and Kristin, what I'm hearing from you so far is so many amazing things, so many sponsors, so much support and stuff happening, and knowing that you're already at 41 participants, but you can hold up to 72. So I would say if there's any women in the area listening, there's still time to sign up. If there's any of the men listening who have a partner or somebody or anybody who has a partner who might be interested in playing in the event, maybe try their first tournament, this is the one to do it. But we've only talked about a bit of it. There's also the players packs that are happening too, right? So what's going on in the players packs for She's Up First?
Well, I don't want to spoil everything, but something.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Well, no, that's okay. Some things we already know. Lunch is included as part of the player pack. I actually elected. Oh my God. Chino!
special appearance by Edmonton Disc Golf Association President Tim Pulmondon.
So I actually elected this year not to move forward with the CWE player pack. We got the CWE player packs last year. They're amazing. They're incredible, and the value of them is like really awesome. We had like the disc with the logo, and we got bags and towels, and anyway, they were amazing. But the reason I elected not to do the CWE player pack this year is one of my core values that I want to operate my event on is like a very accessible cost. And I really, really, really want to include lunch as part of the player pack. The very first year we did it. The second year I went for CWE player packs. So lunch was like a purchased add-on. But I just really think if you are like a busy mom or you haven't been to a tournament before and you're not sure what to expect out of the day yet, like, I don't know, when Tim and I go to tournaments, like I am up the week before evenings, like packing our cooler and like prepping food. Like it's a lot of work. Yes. And I wanted the cost to be as low as possible and also have that include lunch. For me, that was just really important. Just me personally, because I love food and I want to eat a big meal in between my rounds, or not a big meal that makes me sleepy, but like good food in between my rounds. And I have found for myself, like the night before a tournament, the work that I do in my kitchen, and I'm sure lots of people don't do this. Some people just like go out to Tim Hortons between rounds, which is totally fine. But the work that I do in my kitchen to like pack a sandwich, pack whatever, get my cooler, get my snacks, it's exhausting. I'm tired the night before a tournament. So I just really wanted to include lunch. So lunch is included. Nice. The lunch provider is Mindful Food Co. She's out of Devon. I've had her food last year at a yoga retreat, and it's so yummy and very filling. So that's one big portion of the player pack. And then the second big portion that we need to talk about is BR Disc Golf. a longtime supporter of our event, have also sponsored us with just a really big discount for our player pack. So all the players will also get a disc.
Nice.
And BR like went above and beyond and did a really heavy discount for us, which is super helpful and makes the player pack such a great value. So thank you to BR for doing that. He sent me the selection of discs. It's just going to be like same as how it is at Tundra Toss, like random discs, and everyone first come, first serve. So come early in the morning to get the disc you want.
And that's an awesome way to do it. Like I know Darryl and I found that, because all of a sudden you're getting the disc that you would like, or a disc that you'd like to try, as opposed to maybe just the one mold that was picked by the TD at that time.
Yeah, which is, I mean, and I don't want to knock that at all, because like the CWE player pack is such a great value, and the discs were beautiful last year. I know they're going to be beautiful this year. But for me, it just made more sense to go that route this year. Yeah. So, and then there's some other little goodies that I won't spoil.
That we'll keep a secret for now. So you have to sign up and show up in order to find out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, while we're on the topic of like prizing and fun and everything else, this is for the guys too. The night before the event, Friday night, I like to do a little meet and greet at Hermitage at the picnic site. So I'm going to be at the picnic site from 6:30 to 8 at Hermitage on Friday, May 3rd. And at 7 p.m., we're having bingo. We're playing bingo. I got my bingo cards.
There you go.
It's actually going to be for, it's going to be some cash prizes. So it's a $5 buy-in. Bring your $5 cash, but then the winners of bingo will win cash back. So
nice.
And there's also some prizes to give away that night too. And you don't have to be playing in the tournament to come play bingo. So if you are volunteering and you just want to swing by, if you're caddying, if you are just, if you just want to play bingo on Friday night and you're a member of the disc golf community, you can come by and play bingo at the Hermitage Picnic Site 1. That'll be at 7:00.
That's awesome. Go.
Bring $5.
Sounds good. So it ends up, it's not just a one-day event at that point. You kind of make it the whole Friday and Saturday, and you'll really get that feeling of community once, if you decide to come to everything that's part of the event.
Totally. And I think, so I experienced that last year at one of Carrie's and Christy's events, which was the Crush in Kamloops. I mean, it's a 2-day event, and really it's like, 3 days with like all the extra fun stuff. They did trivia one night, which was a blast. It was just like a really good chance to like meet other women and socialize with other women that I wouldn't normally get to socialize with. And even like at Limber last year at the Limber Open, on the Saturday night, they had like a music concert at Lloyd Park. And I had just gone down to the tournament by myself. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll go and check it out. And sure enough, my good friend Kaylee Cox was there, and her husband, Steve. And I ended up, having such a great time. Just like really, I feel like I only know them through like playing a disc golf round or passing each other at tournaments. But instead, we just got to hang out and have a beer and listen to music and chit chat for like an hour. And it was so fun. So I'm definitely passionate about that community aspect of it as well. So if you're not doing anything on the Friday night before the tournament, come on down, just, have a laugh, play some bingo. That's it.
If you don't have anything to do, you got something to do now.
Yeah,
exactly.
But also no pressure, because everyone is going to feel different nerves and stuff for tournament day. So if you want to have your own tournament evening routine and it does not include playing bingo, that's okay too. That's okay too.
Oh, that's awesome, Kristin. Well, I think we've covered most of the things that Darryl and I wanted to ask you about. She's up first, but is there anything that you wanted to put out there? And at this same moment, for any of our listeners, if there's a question, whether you're thinking about joining the tournament or you have a question about it, maybe put it in the comments now. But yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up about it?
Yeah. I actually, Tim, will you pass me my computer? Oh, he's watching the Oilers game. I want to take just a quick second. Here's my computer's coming. I just want to read you guys the very front page of our caddy book, because it has like sort of our She's Up First vision and mission. And I feel like I just want to capture that. So let me just pull it up. Sorry, I was not organized and have it at the ready. Oh my God.
While you're looking for it, Kristin, whether it's possible or not, but Andrea in the chat said that for the porta potty, if it's possible to put a yellow smiley face on it, because that's the mini that he gave to Andrea way back when. So
the Tim
if
Sherman
it's possible, Tim
Portaloo
Sherman,
with
the
a
Tim
yellow-
Sherman pot, with a yellow smiley face.
So I'm just seeing kind of a theme here. It's you're going to head out to hole 10 and you're going to go to Wally's Way and you're going to battle with the triple Mando. And then after that, you're just going to be disgusted and you're going to need a washroom break and you can head out to the Tim Sherman smiley face loo.
Oh
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it seems good to me. That's for sure. Okay, I'm looking in the wrong things. Do you guys do this whenever you open a screen, whether it's your phone or your computer, and you just get totally distracted?
Oh, that's totally fine.
Okay,
that's the same thing. Everything I deal with every week when I come home with Jeremy.
Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the.
So,
I'll read it out. But this is the front page of the caddy book that all the women got, and there's some awesome pictures of. That was our very first year, and this was like a practice round that we had at Wildman. Oh, Wildman! I said Wildman's vending, but he's also one of our sponsors on our sponsor list too, because I think he's throwing in a prize.
Nice.
Okay, so She's Up First 2024. The intention of our tournament is to make space for female players to take the tee box first this season. She's Up First is about this great community of female golfers coming together to support one another and have some fun. We vision a time when women feel confident stepping up first to tee on any card. We vision women feeling seen, valued, and respected on the course. We vision more women filling tournament spots across Alberta and beyond. So the two things that I kind of wanted to say, I guess, in coming on tonight is the very beginnings of the idea of having a women's tournament in Edmonton that Tim and I talked about over 3 years ago was that, you know, how can we get more women playing tournaments? Because there's so few women in tournaments. And I know it's a super hot button sort of topic right now on social media. And, you know, everyone's like, yeah, we want more women's spots. We want more women recognition, everything else. I think the biggest thing is that it takes patience for those things to happen. It's going to take time. It's going to take growth. And a lot of women might not feel confident to just join a big A-tier tournament. Mm-hmm. So having a place where women can learn how to play tournament style play, learn how to use disc golf scene and register and PDGA rules and what is that about, and oh my gosh, there's all these rules I have to follow and I have to use PDGA live, and like all of that is so overwhelming. So I really wanted to create an event where women can just like come learn that in an environment that does not feel intimidating, an environment where you're not the only woman in the whole field. You know, there's a bunch of other women that are learning that alongside with you, or women that have been there before and that are there to support you through that. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's easier to kind of face those fears and easier to, you know, be vulnerable and make mistakes and try in the support of a bunch of women, specifically when it comes to sports. And I know this isn't the experience for every woman, so I don't want to speak, you know, I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but I think for a lot of women in sports, being in an entire field of men can be very, very intimidating. So that's number one. And then number two, it's really important for me to have the tournament be early in the season, which is why I like to do it right at the beginning of May, because if it's She's Up First, because if what we want and our goal is to have more women filling more tournament spots, they need to be able to try it and then practice it throughout the season.
Yeah.
So the hope is that, you know, even if like one new player has a really great time at this event and registers for one other tournament the rest of the season, that's a big win. And I know that was like, you know, that was Zoe's experience. She played and then, you know, got hooked and registered for a bunch of tournaments and moved up to FPO. And like, that doesn't have to be everyone's experience, but, you know, hopefully you have a great time at this event, and it could encourage you to try another event, whether it's another women's event or a big A tier, like you guys, you know, like you, Jeremy, playing you play an A tier for like your first tournament. Like, you know, there's no reason why a woman can't come play She's Up First and then go register for Falcon's Flight, which registration opens like the week of She's Up First happening.
Yes. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what you're bringing to women's disc golf with that is just amazing. And I can tell you in my experience playing with Jana, Jody, yourself, Zoe, Terry, like the list goes on and on. Every one of the women I've had a chance to play with has been amazing and so much fun. So I would say, you know, if one of the barriers to someone who's thinking and on the fence of registering right now is I don't know anybody, trust me, when you're done, you're going to have like 10 new best friends by the end of the tournament. So don't let anything hold you up. And I would say probably reach out to you if a person was on the fence or something. But if you're on the fence, just do it. Just register and get out at that event. And everybody else, come out for bingo, come out to caddy, come out to cheer. It would be amazing if hole 18, there was a whole crowd just like on the DGPT and everyone cheering. That would be amazing. So.
Oh my God, I'd love it. And come out to shop our vendors. It's really cool that they're coming, like, you know, Wildman, of course, and also JK coming all the way from Calgary to an event with 40 people. It's like, you know, let's show them there's lots of sales to be made in Edmonton.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So fantastic. So Darryl, do you see, was there any other questions for Kristin?
No, that's it. Yeah, people in the chat are excited for it. It's going to be, it sounds like it's a very welcoming, you know, event, regardless of your skill level, regardless of where, you know, you think you're going to position and things like that. It's just not so much, I mean, obviously it's about the tournament, but it's so much more than just, you know, a tournament thing. It's more about, like Kristin said, encouraging first timers, encouraging people to take that next step. And even if they don't go on and register in more tournaments, if it gets more people out there playing, and, you know, taking up a sport that they figure out that's the sport that we love, then yeah, it's all positive out of it.
I also wanted to say, Darryl, I'm loving your new jersey. Oh, I think the Oilers just scored. I'm loving your new jersey. Is this your
Thank
first
you?
time
Yeah.
showcasing it, or did you already showcase it on the pod and I missed?
No, I think I kind of showcased it on the Instagram Live when we were doing our ace run at Niska. But yeah, no, this is just a thing that I got from Amazon. It's got my name on the front. Oh, can I spin around with my headphones on? I don't know.
And on to the back.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
Yeah. I told him when we were looking at it, it's almost like 8675309 Darryl or something on the back there.
Definitely showing your age there, Jeremy. But
so, no, that's awesome. Well, we're so forward looking.
Well, so what we're speaking about jerseys, I should just also mention, just putting it out there, that I also have another jersey coming soon as well from BR. You mentioned BR. Edmonton Disc Golf and BR Disc are having a collaboration for new EDGA jerseys as well.
Yeah, I ordered one too.
Yeah, nice. They're going to look pretty sick. Yeah, I like them. Yeah. Sorry, just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I ordered one too. I think there's like 4 or 5 days left to order. I think it's when I played in the Memorial in 2022, there was a woman on my card the first day. Her name was Elise, and she was rocking this really cool jersey that I had never seen, and all it was on the back had like their club name and logo.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. She's like, yeah, it's just our hometown club. And I just thought, like, ever since then I've been like, man, I want to go to events out of town and wear EDGA. Like, I can't wait to wear EDGA at Falcon's Flight this year. I can't wait to wear EDGA. I don't know if it'll be here in time for spring runoff, but if it is, I'm wearing it at spring runoff.
I'll be wearing it as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, where I was going, Kristin, is that both Darryl and I are looking so forward to being part of the event, and we're so excited for it. So we can't wait to see you there. And I don't know, Darryl, if you're going to make it, but I'm starting to look on my schedule. I'm getting the bingos penciled in there as well. So
yeah,
I'll see. Bring your wife too.
Yeah, I could do that. That would be maybe those baby steps of trying to get her into the gateway drug we call disc golf. But
honestly, yeah, it'd be great.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Kristin. And I'm sure we'll see you out on the course. And if not, we will see you in just over a week. And everybody register. If I haven't said it enough times, if you're on the fence, register now.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys again. I know I've said it before, but it's just awesome to have you showcasing the local aspect and have you showcasing all the women's, community and events, and having Andrea on was just perfect and a great way to kick off the CWE season.
Well, great episode.
Cool. Okay, Catch you later.
Thanks, Kristin.
There you go, Darryl.
She's still there.
Well, maybe she is she?
I don't know. It's okay. Yeah. Another what a one thing you're definitely going to get from Kristin is you're going to get energy.
Yes, always going to get energy. And you're not only that, you're going to get like to think about the energy she puts into her FPO playing, the energy she's putting into her tournament organizing and her tournament directing, and the event will be amazing. There is no doubt about it. And I can't stress it enough that if you are a woman out there looking to play an event, get out there and play She's Up First. You're not going to regret it. It's going to be a great time. Yeah.
No pressure. All about the fun.
Yeah.
If it's your first tournament, you're going to enjoy it. Even if it's not your first tournament, you're still going to have fun. People that have been, like she said, people that have been out there, that have been part of it before, coming back for it again. There's a reason why people keep coming back for it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And, thanks to both her and Andrea for coming onto the show tonight and for speaking about the women's disc golf situation in Canada and everything that they're doing for it. They also were really kind to thank us for what we're doing. So, hey, if you're listening to us and you've got some value out of what we've got here, take a moment, click that subscribe button. It's going to help us bring you more of this content, and we'd really appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Darryl, you were talking about your jersey. You did show it off on the weekend, and you said you showed it off in our little ace run. So we tried another live event on the weekend. And why don't you talk a little bit about what we did there?
Yeah, we tried to do something a bit new. Well, not necessarily new. We tried to do something a little bit different. We've done our 3-hole disc dice challenge a few weekends in a row. We might have a weekend off in between, but we've done it probably 3 or 4 versions of it, different courses, different holes. So we figured that maybe people were getting a little bit it was getting a little bit tedious to some people. So we thought we'd try something new, keep it fresh. We were already out at Niska, which is a benefit of being an EDGA member, only $20. Get your bag tag now and get out there, sign your waivers, get out to Niska. It's a great course. We were out there already. And we just figured, you know what, while we're out here, hole 3, mentioned it before that it was aced in the fundraiser last year. So we thought, why not? Let's go out there. We changed up our bag a little bit. I took out a lot of my drivers and put in some mid-ranges. We set up the camera. We decided that we were going to do an ace run on hole 3. Originally, we were going to throw 5 or 6 discs, and then, we were encouraged by the chat to just empty the bag. So we ended up staying out there. We emptied the whole bag, and I think Tim even suggested at one point we just throw the bag, because I think that was the best chance that we had of trying to get a disc in the bag. So, we both emptied our bags. Spoiler, we didn't get any aces, but there's plenty of holes, plenty of courses that we can try it on another weekend.
Yeah, and if you like that content, let us know. We had fun. It was a good way to kind of interact with everyone, and to, Terry Hong was on there, and she was giving us some tips like grab your biggest disc and take your biggest X step and throw right through the basket, and
drive it through the basket.
Yeah, we took all our putters out, but our intention was to throw some mid-ranges. But I think by the time we were done, I was throwing fairways and a couple drivers as well at that basket. So yeah, it ended up being a good time. And the other thing that was kind of funny about it is before we played a round at Niska beforehand, But when we did that, before we started that round, we took a picture just to let everybody know that we were going to be live, and we just thought we were taking a fun picture. And then we had a comment in there asking us when the new album was going to drop because of the way we were posing in that picture, which
exactly
made me laugh, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing too, we should talk about any of our EDGA members who are playing at Niska, and there's been a lot of chat in the Facebook there. But if you get out to hole 16 right now remember that Niska Paskwahk stands for Goose Meadows. There's some Canadian geese out there right now. And in particular, I think one has been affectionately named. Do you remember what the name is? Is like Hissy McHissface or something like that. I think they've named the goose on hole 16. So there's a goose on hole 16 that's kind of right around the basket. And if you throw a disc there, you just best of luck for you to try and get it. I think you need to take your 20-foot grabber and try to grab it and just pull it gently away, because that's the only way you're getting near that disc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it ended up that we tried that. Yeah. Do we want to tell the story about me getting attacked?
Well, you should. It's your story for sure.
I don't necessarily. I mean, I can make it sound as bad as it wants to be, but yeah, we were out there, and it was just a goose that was. It had vengeance out for us. No matter where we walked, we'd experienced geese before on other holes and other courses, obviously, but we were out there probably hole 7 or 8, hole 8. We had geese in our path, but we just kind of gently shooed them away. We walked towards them, and they got the message, and they walked away. But this goose on hole 16, he was up for a fight. As soon as I started walking towards the goose to try and get it away from my disc, it took off running. It ran right towards me. It took off. It took flight, and I want to say that it was I want to say maybe it was a foot away, but I held up my bag in front of me, running backwards while the goose was coming towards me, mouth open or beak open, squawking, teeth showing. And then
like really big teeth, right? Like big sharp teeth. We didn't even know geese had teeth that sharp.
No, they were fangs. I think it had blood dripping from the corner of its mouth and everything. But yeah, no. I mean, even the fact that I ran away back up the fairway of 16, it flew, landed. I turned around and was going back towards the basket, so it took flight again, and it charged me again. But luckily, no disc golfers were hurt during the proceedings. And in the end, we decided, okay, well, let's just call it par and let's get our discs and go. And we got our grabbers out, but we couldn't get near the goose or the discs, even with the grabbers. It felt like it was being threatened or something. So
yeah. So we would say to everybody is keep an eye out if you're playing hole 16 and Hissy McHissface, as I think the goose was called, is out there guarding the basket. People have been saying they've been playing to the power pole just to the left instead or the right. And they've been using that as a tonal instead. And that's just far enough away that the goose isn't bothering them. And everybody who thinks they're super tough, you're tough until that goose comes at you. And then you're going to find out you're not as tough as you thought you were.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Darryl, let's wrap it up. We'd like to talk about, we don't do a ton of disc golf pro tour talking, but we do talk about the Canadian disc golfers that are on the disc golf pro tour. Yeah. So I've got some notes here, and maybe you and I can kind of tag team these, but we had 3 disc golfers recently at the Music City Open. We had Thomas Gilbert. He was down there. He ended up tying for 75th. He was tied with players like Luke Sampson, Caleb Bruce, and Calvin Longquist. And some of those, I know Luke Sampson, but I really haven't heard of the other 2 players. And the kind of neat thing, and you can go onto his social media and check it out, but he actually shot even in all 3 rounds. So he had pars and he had bogeys, but at the end of the day, his score was even Steven the whole way through.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah. I mean, I know he said that it's not a thing that he wanted to, it's not something that he's really proud of, but it was kind of cool to see that he scored even. So yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Thomas. Obviously, we had Chantel as well. She was down there. She shot a plus 19, and that was good enough for solo 21st place for her. And, solo 21st was lucky enough for her that she grabbed the last cash spot as well. She didn't have a great second round, but, it's the way that it goes sometimes. And she had a great third round to pull back to get to that last cash for her.
Yeah. And I saw one of her posts as well. And what had happened was after the second round, she went out with Chris, her fiance. They went out to another course. And she said there was just something with her mechanics on her wrist.
Yeah.
And so she kind of worked that out. And then that was good enough to get her to come back on that third or on the third round and get that 21st finish. And then the last Canadian who was out at the Music City Open was Max Rajitnik. And usually Thomas is the one posting the higher position, but this time Max was. And he, as opposed to Thomas's even, Max shot a -4, and that tied him for 61st place with Silver Lat, which I believe is Kristen Tatar's partner.
Yeah.
And then Raven Newsom, James Proctor, and Evan Smith. So pretty good company there. Unfortunately, it wasn't high enough to cash in the event, but still, we've got Canadians out there and they're doing their thing and they're working to get better every tournament.
Yeah.
So the next event for DGPT side where the Canadians will be at is Champions Cup, and all three of them will be participating, and those are the only three Canadians in the event are Thomas, Chantel, and Max. And then the one thing about that this year is it's normally at the IDGC at WR Jackson, but with the Pine Beetle stuff and that, they had to move it, and Champions Cup is up at Northwood Black, right? So
yeah, all 4 rounds.
Yep.
I do have a question for the chat. I know a few people have left because the guests have gone and nobody likes to listen to us anymore. But for the people that are listening and the people that listen back to this, something that me and you have talked about, Jeremy, and we want to get the listeners' opinion on this. So we pride ourselves and we kind of market ourselves as being Canadian disc golf, local Canadian disc golf, Alberta, Western Canada, and we've even gone. Our previous guest
Across
was out
Canada.
in Ontario, so Canada-wide, but mainly being focused on Canadian disc golf. But if we had the chance to speak to a DGPT touring pro, FPO, MPO, would the chat and would the listeners like to hear a conversation or an interview with, one of those touring pros that it doesn't necessarily fall under our Canadian banner, what we're all about, but is it something that people would be interested in listening to? It's not like we're trying to forget our roots or trying to be like, okay, we've made it into a podcast now we can start interviewing these big names and forget what we started with. But yeah, I'm just interested. What are your thoughts on it, Jeremy?
Well, my thoughts are, I think as well, is that if we interview anybody who was on the DGPT, say an American player or maybe a European player, we would kind of try to tie it as much as we could to Canadian disc golf. So, if we were talking to Paige Shue or someone like that who has played up at TCO, or, any of the players who have played in Canada, talk about their experience in Canada, to talk about why they don't come up to Canada, to talk about how we get them to come up to Canada. So although they wouldn't be a player that is from Canada, we would definitely put a Canadian slant on that interview. So if that's something that interests our listeners, I think, that's what we want to know.
I would fear that the link would be very tenuous and we would be using, oh, do you want to come up and play in Canada? There you go. We mentioned Canada. So now we can interview whoever it might be. Like, I think, recently we've been trying to do a lot more about getting more Canadian MPO and FPO names into people's minds and get them to start looking at the CDGT tour and, to follow those names a bit more. And that's what our whole goal was. So my fear is that people think that, okay, now we're done with Canadian tour pros and we just want to get an interview because we can put their name or thumbnail in the picture and get views that way. But that wouldn't be the case. No, Sam, we don't have an in with Paul Macbeth, although if somebody in the chat does know Paul Macbeth's agent, just get him to contact us and we'll have our people talk to his people. Yeah. No, it's just an idea because there's a few names that we've come up with that, are not, we're not going to say we're going to be reaching out to Calvin Heimberg or Gannon-Burr or Kristen Tatar or, Owen Scoggins. Those, we're not thinking that we're going to be doing anything like that. We're not going to be using it for that sort of purpose. But if there was any way that we could speak to somebody like that, would you like to listen to them? That's all we're asking.
Well, and you were talking there too, Darryl, about the Canadian Disc Golf Tour. I think we're getting even closer now to the Canadian Disc Golf Tour. From what I understand from our communications with Park Pro and listening to what they've been talking about on their podcast, is they're at the point where they're just about ready to release what the tour looks like this year. But you and I have been talking about our fantasy setup, and I think the way we've settled, and we're still throwing this out there, is there's about 9 A tiers in Canada. So between those 9 A tiers across the country, you're going to have all of the Canadian MPOs and the Canadian FPOs playing at least one of those events. And those are the people that we want to bring to you. So at this point here, what we're playing with is that we're thinking we're going to do our fantasy show for each of those 9 events, and then we'll do a recap for you afterwards. That's where we're kind of floating it out there. Darryl's giving me some looks because it's not settled. It's not in stone. But that's kind of another thing we should throw out to you to let you know what we're thinking about.
Yeah, we haven't forgotten about the fantasy tour. Like you said, we were basing it off the CDGT, but the Park Pro boys are trying to dot their I's and cross their T's, and
the tournaments are coming.
Get everything finalized from their side of it. So we've been kind of waiting on them, but like you said, that was the other idea that you had was A tiers. They're still going to be having touring pros going to them, so why not use those as a building block?
So once we have that actually official, once the two of us have both signed off in ink ourselves, we'll bring that to you as well. Now, before we cap off, because I think we've kind of covered everything we want to cover, this is a bit of a longer one, but we'll wrap it up. Were there any listener questions we should hit before we close out?
Not really any questions. Dylan did say he would enjoy listening to conversations with guests from anywhere.
Okay, that's good to know.
The trophies, Kristin wanted to put out that the trophies for the She's Up First tournament are unique, but they're still getting the finishing touches put on there. So Kristin will put some pictures out. I think Andrea was asking about trophies. Yeah, no, I think that's then there was a lot of chat about doubles, but they can have their own banter back and forth about that.
Well, let's get ready to wrap this one up, and let's finish it off. You can't finish it off without a secret word. Darryl, have you been thinking on it?
Oh, secret word, Jeremy. That's good. I want to.
I'm kind of thinking about Tim Sherman's porta potty loo. Are you?
That's exactly where I was going to go. Tim Sherman's porta potty. I think that's perfect.
Is that it? All right. Secret
Tim Sherman's porta potty.
Sherman's porta potty. Make sure you get enough U's in Tim Sherman. We're not sure if it's 1 or 4, but there's a few in there. So,
is there U's in Sherman?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like so it's going to be fun to see what.
But it's SHU.
It could even be SCHUURMANN.
Do some research.
Like that,
don't leave it all on us.
So
Tim Sherman's porta potty.
That's the secret word?
Yeah, that's the secret phrase. I think it's evolved from a secret word to a secret phrase now. Tim Sherman, and there's only 4 people watching now. So, I mean, hey, if you didn't stick around to the end, then that's your loss.
That's right. So now, finish this off, Darryl.
Oh, do you know what I was going to say?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
No, you don't know because I just thought of it right now. But what I would like to do is, like Kristin was saying, that if you're thinking of playing disc golf next Saturday, not this Saturday coming, but the Saturday after, don't go to Hermitage because it's a women's event. It's for women. Don't take up the space. You've got plenty of other courses to go and look at. But what I would like to do is I would like to go out to the course and throw my sweet Chantel Budinsky F3.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking if I went to Rundle,
right,
where would I throw this? I mean, I could possibly throw this. I mean, I could maybe throw it on hole 16.
I was almost thinking they're changing the baskets on hole 10. So hole 10 is going to be at the far basket for you.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good hole because I have had some luck there throwing my T-Bird or my F3 or F7, sorry. F1. That's what I've got, an F1.
Yeah.
So an F3 would just be the perfect extra flight. So what I would do is I would step up to the tee and I would, make a nice power grip on this disc and I would step up and I would rip it because there's plenty of wide fairway on the right hand side.
There is.
Yeah, and the way that I throw it, it's always going to go up in the air. It's always going to have some elevation. But with it being overstable, it's going to come right behind the tree because there's a tree there on hole 10. 10, yeah. It's going to go right around the back of the tree. It's going to come slight hyzer into the basket.
Right.
But of course, it's me throwing it, right? So there's only one thing it's going to do.
I think I know what it's going to do.
What's it going to do, Jeremy?
It's going to chain
out. That's the new one, Jeremy.
See you later, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everybody.